Hey guys, we're here today with another monster video, right? So get your popcorn and settle back. We're gonna show you an A to Z build on my kitchen at the church renovation project. Now this was a server kitchen. Let's take a quick look at the before shots. Yep, that's pretty darn nasty. Now we've got something functional, less than 2,000 bucks. We're gonna go through every step for you, from the rebuilding of the cabinet boxes to putting on the new doors and painting them and adding a tile countertop, dropping in the sink, connecting all the plumbing, doing the backsplash, hanging cabinets. It's all in this video. We're gonna be able to hang out for a couple hours and give you a good understanding of the power that you have as a DIYer to transform your living spaces and save a ton of money. Just remember, the contracting world has changed recently, all right? There's fewer of them available, and so unless you have a ton of money, you're not gonna get a contractor, A, who's available or wants to take your project, who's gonna have the skills to do it, or is gonna do it with integrity. You are your own best contractor. Today's video, I'm gonna teach you my system for repurposing old kitchen cabinets that are stick frame. These used to be absolutely atrocious, and I thought they were gonna go in the garbage. But instead, we took the opportunity to rebuild it and turned it into a really functional kitchen and save thousands of dollars. Rule number one, guys, make sure you turn off the water. It's an old one, and it's got cobwebs everywhere. Boom. Well, that was easy. I'm gonna close this off. Here we are. Done. This is the easiest way with copper. Let's just straighten it out and pull it through from the other side. Oh, awesome. There's a frame over there that's probably picking up. This is gonna be a lot easier than I thought. That's just nasty. The drain was cleaner than the water supply. Here's a great opportunity to learn something. Whenever you see these laminate countertops joined at an angle like this, in the middle, they channel out underneath the countertop, and then they create these holes. And what they do is they throw in a big long threaded rod nut washer supply to tighten it up. There, and here. Okay? So whenever you want to break your counter apart, from the top, you can just fire them loose. Ta-da! Now we're ready to lift it up. It doesn't stand a chance. Here we go. Take it out in one piece. Made life easy. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually take a line and we'll cut back with the saw right through here, okay? That's the finished frame line, okay? So if I can remove all of this, then I can peel all this off, then I can take a piece of existing and I can laminate it to this one from here to here. Then all I gotta do is take off some of these 1x3s and reframe the picture frame on it. Okay. So now you get an idea of what's gonna happen here. I'm just gonna finish framing that out. A couple pieces of lumber, boom, paint job, new counters, cut in a sink, backsplash tile, piece of cake. What we're gonna do is, of course, nothing is the same size, nothing is square, nothing is level. I'm gonna use my laser level on my stand with the magnet. I'm gonna drop a line. I'm going to cut the front of this cabinet so it's exactly square to the wall. And then we're gonna drop laser lines to finish off the edges to make sure both of those are square to the wall. Because when you're using large format tile, having a square surface to start with is the key to success, right? So we're gonna just drop those lines, get that cutting done, and then we're going to talk about what we have to do to prep this counter, because I've got a couple of things to do with this counter before I can do the rest of the refinishing. I'm going to get rid of one of these shelves. We're going to reframe. The back of this cabinet is destroyed and open, so I'm going to take out the plumbing. I'm going to put in a new back of that cabinet, And we're going to reinstate one of these shelves again. So it's important I teach all the time on this channel. Know the end from the beginning. Here is the trim that I'm using for my countertop, okay? It's a Schluter product. You can tell by the shape. All right, and it's gonna sit right about here. And you can see from end to end, look at the bow. This is because this is old, all right? And the front of this cabinet was supported by a 1x3 that doesn't transfer load anywhere. So over the last, I don't know, 60 years, every time someone sits on this or puts weight on it, it just starts bowing. We're gonna address that in our rebuild. But I do have 1/2 inch of thickness here. 5/8. So I have 5/8, which is good. All right. So now I know that I'm gonna have this plus this thickness, which is 3/4 plus 5/8. Okay. Now we have doors that are going on the front. If my countertop sticks out 5/8 past the door, then it has a nice normal look. If I trimmed any of this off, I might end up too flush and it's gonna look stupid. So what I'm gonna do now I know the end from the beginning, is I'm gonna measure from the wall the actual dimension here, which is 24.5. Okay, I'm gonna take that number, translate that over here. Okay, and I'm gonna measure, because this has finished wood, I'm 1 inch plus my 5/8. So if I take off 3/8, not going to be thick enough. Everything's twisted. Wow, this is going to be just a little hairy. I'm going to go back to here. Got to make sure I've got a consistent gap along all the doors, because that'll be the most visible part of this. If it's not square, you've got to consider what's going to draw attention. Okay, so if the face of this is consistent gapping, it'll look fine. But if one side is deeper or narrower than the other, then the lines draw shadows and you can see that it's not square. So I'm just going to take a little bit of edge off here and bring that across to here. There we go. Okay. So we'll cut this, and then I'm going to pull a laser level out that does cross line and make sure both ends are square back to the wall. That way my tile is already going to have a square outside corner. Everything will be able to cut and measure real easy. I'm going to be cutting with left-handed. All right. All right. So this is going to seem a little bit weird, but so in this situation, it's going to look weird. I actually have it's what's called a left-handed saw, so that when you cut, you can actually see where you're cutting. But I usually use it with my right hand, and I use the guide. Okay. That keeps all the junk from the saw flying away from my face, so I don't wear glasses. Today, I'm cutting left-handed because I actually got to see what's going on and follow this line. And Formica's gonna be flying all over the place, and that will hurt you, so make sure you get protection. When working in this environment, you wanna watch the blade that you start at the right material, and then you wanna line up the mark right here. If you don't have one, a little bit of experience will tell you exactly where the cut line is, and you can draw it on, okay? And now, I'm basically gonna use that knowledge to square my blade off to my cutting line. So I'm in the right spot here, up against the material, and I keep this on this, and that'll keep me straight all the way to the end of the cut. Now I don't have to pay attention to what's going on with the blade. I can just keep my eyes on here. Now I need my cross-line laser here. Select that. Let's show this over here instead. So now with this line, I want to put this line on here, and then I want to follow that line for the outside. Make sure, like, just a little bit of movement makes a big difference here. Okay, now I don't need to slide this over. I just need to measure to the line and see if it's square. 1 1/4. Boy, that is really close. So what will happen is if I go right to this corner here, okay, and then I'm going to make an adjustment to line this up first. Boy, that is so close it's not even funny. I'm going to cut my metal trims, and I'm going to make sure they're 45 degrees, and I'll place them in here with the first tile that's cut, okay, and line them up, and then we should be fine when the time comes. But the other side I know is out really badly. And we're going to draw a line. You can see, if I don't do that, I'm going to have a hell of a time when it comes time to putting the tile in. Now I've got to go freehand here. This is going to be a pain in the ass. I'm going to use my finger just underneath the guard, okay, right here, just as a guide against the wall, okay, so that I can help to keep this in place, otherwise it'll fly around too much. So now I've got my countertop the right depth and it's square. This is all part of the rebuilding process, right? We can't move forward until we have something we can build on. So now let's finish off our demo. I've got to pull the trim off here, get rid of that extra shelf. That'll only take a second. Give it a little love tap. There we go. It's basically all put together with finishing nails, so there's not a lot to it. Here we go. Kitchen cabinets were stick framed, so they actually built it in place. So this shelf was put in, and then they put the straps, and then the next shelf. So the only way to remove all this is one piece at a time. The good news is, old cabinets that are built like this are pretty much solid wood and are prime candidates for repainting, which can save you thousands. Now we're ready to go. I mean, if it got in there, it should be able to come out. Holy cow. What's the math on this puzzle I'm missing? Here we go. Nope. Oh boy, here we go. Okay. Whew. Alrighty. I don't have a wrist for that today. Here's how this works. This one piece of wood here is supposed to be the strength, and it nails into the face, right? And that one finishing nail is carrying all that weight. I don't want to tear out the next shelf support because I want to put that shelf in. So I'm just going to cut this one out. That's a lot easier. Now this is all potentially really good wood, so I'm just going to take the nails out and save it for another day. First, let's get this reinstated. Whew. All right, so what I've got set up here is my jack. I'm going to lift the main support that's behind the 1x3s here. And I'm going to go from countertop to countertop and see how level I can make this thing, because right now it's really out. That's better. Oh yeah, that made a big difference. Perfection is really not the goal here, is it? Okay. Now I've got this in place. It's almost perfectly level. Everything else I will work out in the wash when I add the Thinset, because remember, we're going to build this countertop with this metal trim, and since it's a multi-side design, there's actually an incredible amount of strength, even though it's aluminum. We'll be able to set this in Thinset, use a clamp to hold it in place until it's dry, and we'll be fine. That is the goal, to not have too much deflection. So when you're dealing with tile, deflection is your enemy. That's the movement. So before I put the face of this cabinet back on, right here, look at that, like it doesn't even get to the bottom anymore. That's how much it sagged. we're going to put it in about here. But I want to put blocking in behind it that matches up with the toe kick. So I need about something like a 2x4. I'm going to measure and cut those two pieces, get them installed, and it goes from here to the bottom, right? Here's my measurement, 14 3/4, and then 14 1/2. We'll get both of those cut. Here we are. Okay. Where the hell did they all come from, eh? Getting eaten alive down here in my own basement. Now I want it to hold all the weight and be somewhat aesthetically pleasing at the same time. Okay, good. There we go. Let's see if we're transferring load here now. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, now the decorative facade is going to be nailed together just for the purpose of carrying the hinges for the doors. Okay. Okay. This is nailing it into the back piece, across the middle. All right. I ran to the store and I bought some more 1x4 and 1x3 material. I've also got some recycled pieces from the last cabinets. So if any of you are watching this going, Jeff, this is nasty, what are you doing? I'm losing all respect for you. Fine, but you know, here's what I know. Anything you build out of wood is 10 times better than anything built out of particle board. No matter what condition wood is, you can sand it, you can refine it, you can fill it, you can repair it, and then you can paint it. So, let's try to get over the offense before we go too far and just watch and learn. Just lining up to the old cabinet height now. There we are. Let's keep it from twisting. We'll nail the other side of the 2x2 behind it. All right. All right, I'm almost done, and so far it's cost me $6 for 2 pieces of pine. Just saying. Like, you can buy brand new cabinets and new countertops, or you can just do this. We make a lot of different kinds of videos on this channel. We've done tile videos, we've done deck videos, and not every video is for every person. Just like there are going to be some people watching this going, nah, this isn't my thing. I'll buy new, thanks. I'm like, great. If you can buy new, go right ahead. But I know there are a lot of people out there who don't have that luxury. Not with the way everything in the market's going. So, this is for everybody who needs to reclaim, to be empowered to do it. Gotcha, you little critter. Tape measure at the end, it moves according. One direction, goes the other direction, the same thickness of this piece of metal. So when it's pushed, that's for measuring inside in dimension. When it's lifted, it's for measuring the outside. And you can put it in and then bend the tape and kind of guesstimate. Or you can just check the side here, and it tells you how many inches wide your tape is. And then you can just go like this. Take the measurement, add 3, that's 20, 25/8. All right, so if you've been following along the journey of the church at all, you know the plumbing here is a disaster. It all has to be reworked, but for temporary, we can move and reinstate the same plumbing that's here already. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this back, remove this, which is probably still full of really nasty black water. We'll throw that in the bin, and then I'm just going to push it through the backside and lift it up because there's all kinds of room on the other side of the wall. I'm just going to tape up the plumbing pipe so that doesn't let natural gases in, and then we should be good to go. I'm just going to frame up the back and put in a new false back. And then when it's time to connect the sink, we'll drill from the backside, bring it to a new location. Hoorah! All right, that's close enough. Whoop. Got a drip. Straight to the bin for you. All right. That was nasty. What was the problem there? Whew, nasty. Now we're screwing through plywood here. which holds the screw pretty good. I'm just gonna set this up and then drive it through in a minute. Okay. I don't need shelving. There's no benefit to being a shelf in here. If you see something like this lying around, at least do that, all right? That almost cost me a bad trip to the hospital. All right, let's do this. Here's my board. Just to know, you know, it's a thin piece of HDF. White on one side, yay. 22.5. This cost me, I think, like 10 bucks. I mean, it shouldn't be this expensive, but everything's crazy price right now, right? That doesn't mean you can't find things that are affordable. 22.5 on the top here. And then 31 was the height, right? I'm going to use my skill saw to cut this, and I want to cut with the white down because the skill saw blade cuts towards you, and it'll leave a nice clean cut that way. Just a quick tip here for when you're working with thin material. You don't want to try to cut this thin line right now. When you get near the end, there'll be lots of buckling and things can tear. So, cut a couple inches away first so that you're not carrying the weight of so much material. Yeah. Now we can make our cut. Let's throw this in here. Okay, so crown staples. Here we are. These are great for thin material. You will find that in new home construction, finished carpenters use crown staples all the time on casings and baseboards when they're really thin. Really popular in the 1990s, 2000s. Now that trim is getting bulkier, they're going to brad nails, but back in the day, this was the finished carpenter nail of choice. It leaves a perfect dent that can be filled with any kind of nail filler. So in this video, it's how to paint the kitchen cabinets, and we're gonna make this a really functional, gorgeous, sexy modern bar. Yay! Whenever you're repurposing old wood, remember, it's basically softwood, so it's got a lot of flexibility. You want to sand the old and the new. You want to soften up all the edges, even on the new wood. And this is just to create some consistency here. Generally, it comes milled with a sharper edge, but when you're sanding something down, you can get rid of all the dings and imperfections that have happened over time. Mold your old with your new. Remove adhesives and stuff like that. And don't worry about the nail holes and the gouges. Once we've primed with a flat base primer that we're going to use in a few minutes, you've now transitioned so that everything in this wood can be used with the new paintable surfaces. Anything that you apply over top of a flat oil primer, as long as the product says paintable on the product label, you can apply it and then sand it and paint directly on top of it. So that includes your dry decks, your caulkings, other different kinds of quick epoxy patch fix, plastic wood, all these types of products, okay? So don't be worried about it. Whatever's available to you on your shelf will be fine. The trick is to get this set up so now we can spray this. And I'm going to show you my secret weapon. But before I spray, I've got a vacuum. Remember, preparation is the key to any successful paint job. Now that I'm done vacuuming, there's one more thing I'm going to do. I'm going to use air to blow it all out. There's always a little bit of dust in there no matter how well your vacuuming is. There we go. Beautiful. This is also really good for cleaning floors too, right? Once had a job in a cardboard factory, and when there's nothing to print, we just clean floors. We'd all hook up to air hoses and just walk around and make lots of dust. Okay, now time to move on. All right, so here's the next step, guys. I'm just gonna use a little bucket here, mix a little bit of paint at a time. Here's the product, Odorless Zinsser. This is a stain blocker, oil-based product. that works on everything, anytime. Hardwood, softwood, dead animal stains coming through your drywall ceiling. It doesn't matter, this stuff bonds to it. You mix this, it goes in a little bit thick, so you gotta grab a little bit of paint thinner, find a nice solution that works for you, that once you put it into this cute little hand sprayer, right, from Husky, the pressure adjustment's down here. This is what they call a high pressure, low volume, okay? HPLV. They use this kind of a system whenever they're spraying your tub or doing new acrylic lacquer. Here's the deal. We're just gonna put some of the product in here. We're gonna adjust our nozzle so that I can spray under control, work at the back of the cabinet, work my way out, do the top, bottom, side of the face, boom, boom, boom. Get one good solid coat of this on and let it dry overnight. It is oil-based, okay? Even though it's being sprayed with an air sprayer, it will dry a little faster, but since it's oil-based, just trust me, leave it till the next day. You don't want to try to be patching and caulking and working on this just an hour or two after application. All right? Remember, once you put on this, you won't get any more bleed through, you won't get any more stain, no more translation, no more knot stains, nothing. It's gonna be one solution, and that's it. And then the only thing after that is to prep it, sand it, and then we can go right into 2 applications of our finished paint. Yeah. I'm just gonna add the thinner to this right here, right now. Even though this is a gravity feed system, and I can turn the pressure down as low as I need to, I still wanna add a little bit of this paint thinner in here. If it's too thick, it's just not gonna react well, and it'll go on with big, thick blobs. Okay? That's actually doing really well. I'm actually thinking I'm gonna like that. In a lot of cases, when you're thinning paint, you don't need much. Okay? So lucky for me, I had an old can that's still 2/3 full, so I didn't have to mix it in small amounts. I'm just gonna put a label on this that it's already pre-thinned. All right, and we're gonna fill this in. There we go. And I'm only gonna go half full so I get the ability to get on an angle in here, okay? We'll start in the back, work our way forward. But before I do that, I'm gonna work on the other side of the cabinet to test the spray because this is a very unseen area. It's gonna be next to the appliances. If I need to, I can adjust my spray or my strength. I can even stop, pour this out, add more thinner, wait until I'm perfectly happy. All right, it's a little thin. Probably means it's too thick. I'm just gonna turn down my air pressure and just slow down my process a little bit. It's nice though because it's under a lot of control. I'll just finish this up. So even though I love the tool, let's go through pros and cons for you, okay? This tool works amazing everywhere where there's a corner, okay? Because when you're using a brush or a roller, you're gonna get brush marks or you're gonna get dripping. This solves that. Check this out. So crazy. You're not gonna overspray and cause drips. What I'm gonna do is just do all of my edges, my trims, inside corners, and then I'm gonna come back with the roller and I'm gonna do all the main surface. That to me makes sense because I have a small compressor. By the time this recharges to be efficient, I only get a few linear feet at a time. So I'm not gonna go lose my mind over it. I'm just gonna go and do all of the hard to reach places and then roll out the rest of it. All right, well, it's next day, obviously the paint's dry. Yeah, you know, it's funny. We had a meeting with the team last night and we're looking at all the different possibilities for the channel and what we're doing in the near future. I'm thinking it's time to realize that this renovation project is going to keep me hostage in this church for the next few years, just because of the nature of the market, how difficult it is to get trades and materials. And so we decided we're going to just put it on the market after we got occupancy. Obviously, I'm just using dry decks here to fill the holes. We're going to sand them all off when I'm done. So this is kind of a weird project for me because I am not a flipper. I don't know how to make money putting lipstick on a pig. As you can tell, the countertop behind me it's painted with a primer, because the next video in the series is going to be how I'm tiling the countertop. I figured as long as I'm selling this place, I might as well make a counter that we haven't put in our video series yet. So that'll be valuable to you. We're going to try to do all of this as low cost as I can, really, because I don't want to put a whole lot of money into this project now that I'm getting rid of it. But at the same time, I want to make videos that are valuable. Because let's face it, like, you got to be handy nowadays. I'm getting stories all the time, hearing about, we tried to get a contractor, it didn't work out, they didn't show up, they won't start, they took the money and ran. I mean, it's a pretty competitive market out there right now. And if you can't do it yourself, you're going to be waiting a long time before you can get anything done that's affordable or decent quality. Let's face it, if you want it done, right, you got to do it yourself nowadays. So here we are, going to go through this process, try to make this as sexy as we can. And even though I'm selling, I'm not going to go cheap. You know, I'm not going to go buy the cabinet paint off of Amazon. I'm still going to use my C2 paint because, you know, my name's still on this work. Whoever moves in here is going to know who it was that sold it. So I got to make sure that they're going to be happy with the product. So here we go. Now I'm all patched up. That's awesome. Ordered some MDF doors for this kitchen. We picked them up. They got here, I don't know, last week or so. Anyway, once I redid the size of the cabinets, I ordered these doors right away. And that's awesome. This company's cool. It all comes MDF, recessed panel, shaker style door. Very affordable. If you're looking to repurpose an old kitchen and you just got to get some new doors, I'll put the link in the video description for you. This is obviously going to be a Canadian company. Bottom line, guys, a bunch of different places out there you can buy doors from, okay? So don't be worried about it. You can do a quick Google search and find out who's near you. Here we go. We're just going to use the roller. Get a primer on here. MDF needs a good primer. And there are specific water-based paint primers for this. All right. But because I've got the oil out, I figure I might as well just finish it off. I don't want to get a brush out, so I'm just going to lather it into the corners. I really should have sprayed this when I had the spray gun out, but it's only a couple of doors, so it's not a big deal. All right, there we go. Now, I'll do the bottom edge. Hopefully by the end of the day, I'll be able to flip these over and do the other side. So my patching is dry now. Yay! I'm gonna give everything a quick light sand. And then when I'm done, I'm gonna shoot it all with this. This is the original bin from Zinsser. The product we used already was the odorless. Okay, so if you're gonna prime with an oil, prime your spots with an oil or they will flash. And that means that you'll see it through the paint. Some products are better than others, but when you're doing cabinetry, you don't have any mercy at all, okay? Dried excess spackling, basically, it's like a pre-made quick drying compound in a can. So instead of mixing your own 45 or something, you can use that. It's just convenient. I don't think it does as nice a job as mixing your own 45, but okay. Call it. If you get too close with your can, you're gonna get drips. Best to just get a paper towel, clean it all up, and then apply it all over again. You're not gonna wanna sand that down afterwards. When that dries, it's pretty much bulletproof. C2 cabinet and trim paint. What's the easiest way to say this? I love this company. I think it's the best paint on the market. The difficulty, of course, is that they don't have as many stores as some of the larger chains. So what they do have in the United States right now is they have a delivery service. So you can have it shipped to your home for free. There's conditions on that. I think it's based on the amount of purchase, but it's pretty reasonable. It's like if you get 2 gallons of paint, it's free delivery. I'm just gonna mix this up. I had this delivered here weeks ago. So I've got to give this a good mix. Just giving a bit of shake wasn't going to cut it. So here we go. That mixed up way too easy, actually, Matt. You know what? That is going to look really good. I've always said on my channel that if I like a product and I believe in a product and they want to do a sponsorship, then I'm down, okay? So, case in point, DeWalt, huh? Pick up the phone. Anyway, the point is, great stuff. They have a polyway finish in here, okay? It's not a resin. So this product is available on the market even during the supply chain shortage, which is kind of nice. I'm loving it. And they got great colors, so feel free to check it out. We'll put the information in the video description if you want to buy this particular color. It's called Potato Leek, so it's paint, not soup. But you'll figure that out. Here we go. Let's get my spray machine set up, and then off we go to the races. All right, so again, I'm using the Husky sprayer. Just to be clear, they come with 2 of these machines in the case for 150 bucks Canadian. I think that's a great deal. It's a gravity feed, high pressure, low volume. So here's your air pressure knob on the bottom, and here's your volume pressure. When I was spraying this earlier, I didn't have my volume opened up enough, so it was going on a little weak. Once I fixed it, it worked like a charm. So today, we're gonna try with that open a little bit more and get the air mix right. We're gonna aim to not have to water down the paint. It just creates a whole extra step. I think this tool can compensate. Let me just try this over here first. My test spot. Okay, I think I got it balanced out now. Let's try something close up. All right, just want to go through the process because, you know, the rest of this is pretty simple. We're going to be using a light sandpaper on this. This door was actually painted 3 hours ago with a roller. Not bad. For an oil product to already be set up and dry and ready for sanding, that's a miracle. All right, the process is simple. Paint all your one sides plus a bottom edge, flip them, paint the other sides, and then come back. We're going to use the sprayer for the finish on a sanded surface, okay? Just to make sure that we get the look that we're looking for. And again, I'm going to sand in between coats even after this, just to get rid of any dust and debris, all right? So I'm going to start off by doing the inside trim here, and then I'll do the face. Remember, guys, you don't need to pay exorbitant prices for refinishing work. If you want to do it right, do it yourself. All right, so in this video today, I'm removing my plugs, okay? I'm gonna upgrade the wiring so it's up to code. Basically what I've got to do is take these 2 plugs, which are on 1 circuit, and they're wired a little uniquely. It's on a 3-wire, and I don't like that. In today's code, we use 12-2, and we can join as part of a series. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, and we're gonna have to find out, I'd like to have a plug kind of in the middle. The idea of a plug on a counter, code wants it every 4 feet of countertop, okay? And so we wanna look for something in the middle here that's a little bit more convenient. I'm just gonna use my stud finder to identify, that's a lousy spot. There it is, there's the other side. So there's my stud. I'm gonna use these plastic boxes, and if I put it mounted there, that'll be good. So what I wanna do first is trace the new location, and we're gonna go 8 inches off the counter, and that'll be my box. So before I know exactly where it's gonna go, There's my stud right there. Okay. So now I know where my stud is. Now where my corner is going to go. These boxes are all interior boxes, which means that the screw locations are inside the hole. So I can cut this in advance and then place the box. Important when you're cutting through, just use the tip. If there are other wires in there, you don't want to run the risk of cutting through them. And then when we get to where the edge is, I can just use my knife. There we go. Yeah, this whole wall is spray foam. Love the spray foam. You know, everybody talks about spray foam like it's some sort of a miracle cure. But at the end of the day, it is a real pain in the butt to deal with when you're making modifications. I pity the renovators who are going to be out here working on houses 40 years from now trying to make modifications. Wow, that's going to be a real frustration for them. You got to be kidding me. All right. Well, this is why we make these videos. We run into problems. That blue wire I can't move, and it's not enough room for my box. So I've got to go lower than this now. So now we've got to cut a bigger hole. That just means more patching. It's not the end of the world. Let's go to here. And another blue wire. Oi, 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 how many wires did they stick in this wall? Not my day. All right, let's just take a look. So I've got wires that are in the way. I've only got 2 inches. Now, even the original box is 2.5 inches thick. When at first you don't succeed, you try again. Let's go lower. We got to get this thing in here. The reason I'm starting here is because behind this wall is open. It's a mechanical room. And the wall is right around here somewhere. So I'm flying blind. This plug I also want to move, but at least I can see the framing, so that'll be easy. This is just maddening. Oh, I don't feel any wires this time. That's good. Pop some more foam here. We have a spot where we can do this. All right, now, I bought this kind of box because I'm doing retrofit. But what I can't do is I can use this fin. I'm gonna have to throw 1 screw through the side here. So first thing I gotta do is get my grinder, get rid of my tabs, modify the box. All right, so these boxes are designed for new construction, and I already have drywall, so I gotta go. So now my box will fit. That's a start, eh? The other thing I'm gonna need, I'm gonna need a hole through this stud to run the wire. What we're gonna find out here is that because I can't see anything and it's all spray foamed, I'm gonna have to clean all this out just so that I can have access to run my wire. Good news is it's only drywall. Going to need access over to here. Now I've obviously turned off the breaker. It's always a good idea. And there's my access into that mechanical room. Okay. All right, we got to remove the plug. This box has to be removed or part of the finished wall. And in this case, it's going to be easier to make this part of the finished wall. I need more room to work. We're going to leave that box when we put the new drywall on, but we are going to drill another hole for access for the wire. So I'm taking off the cover, moving the second plug now. So same thing, only different here, right? Use the stud finder, got my location. Trick here now is to mount the box same height as the other one off the counter. Dude, that is 2 3/4. Let's just stick this through here and we'll see if we have access on the other side. Oh yeah, I can put a box there. I know I don't have a wire there, that's good. Good. So I'm going to mount this from the other side. That's my stud, mounting it that way, sticking through the hole. And these tabs will come up to the drywall. These ones are in the way. We'll just push it through and then mount it in. Okay, so I'm going to get this wire through the wall from one plug to the next. And I want to have about a foot on each end. Okay, just bend it real quick when you're measuring. You know where to cut. There we go. This is only 2 wire. It's black and white, but it's a thicker gauge, so it carries more power. That's why you can run 2 plugs on it. We're going to take about 8 inches of this sheathing, run it against the copper lead. The reason I'm doing this is so that you can see on these boxes, this piece of metal connects to the ground screws. Okay, so when you're taking your fixture, which is the metal, and you screw that with the metal screw, this connects the ground to the plug. All right, so you're already grounded. Just to be safe though, you can wrap the ground screw and then bring this out and run it over to the green, and that's what I like to do. Okay, now for simplicity, I'll show you how this box works. And you can get these so they have a foam on the back, so it's more like a sound proofing, but you push them in. Okay, you bend and then you straighten out, and then they start to curl. And you can pull it through the box. All right, and you just feed it in until your cabling, your sheathing, about a ½ inch on the inside. You take this ground wire around that screw and then tighten it in. You take your wires and you curl them all up into the box. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fish this through the hole. Here we go. We're going to get this where we want it. And I'm going to leave this just a little bit proud because I'm going to be backsplash tile as well. And we're going to just take a couple flooring screws and screw that box right to the stud on the inside. Situation like this, you need a real bit, right? Check this out. Okay, there we go, 1 and 2. When the electrical inspector comes, because I'm just going to call in for a permit real quick, they're going to go like this, make sure the ground wires are connected to the screw. They're going to want to see that these holes are drilled at least 1.5 inches from the surface of the wood. If they're not, you have to put metal protector plates over top. So I'm going to need that in both of these situations. All right. So I'll make the phone call, I'll make the arrangement, and I'll grab those plates and stick them on. And really, they want to see the wire going all the way back to the source of where your panel is. You don't have to connect to the panel for your rough-in inspection. You just have to have the supply line go. I'm going to bring this wire to this box and a new wire from here all the way back hanging by the electrical panel. That's all they want. All right, and you can pass a rough-in electrical. You can get on with finishing. And if you're like me, because of what's going on in my panel at the church here, it's a little complicated. I'm going to call an electrician to do the connection. But I can get the rough-in done all by myself, do all this work, make the phone call, and they can come and inspect this whenever they want. I just can't put the plugs on until it's inspected. Now that is obviously a lot more wire than I need for this job. We'll just cut that back to something more reasonable. And curl this up. There we go. Now my panel is about 4 feet from that plug on that along this wall, right here. So I've still got 15, 20 feet wire. What I'm going to literally do is I'm going to cut my sheathing here, stick this wire into the box, and just leave it hanging inside the room. As long as an electrical inspector can see that you have enough wire to go to the panel and it's inside the room where the panel is, then they can pass your rough-in knowing that they can pass or inspect the rest of the wiring and the staples and all those rules at a later date before they give you the final. So once I stick this in, I can just leave this hanging on the ground. I'm officially roughed in. Done. Okay, that's how you move plugs when you're working at home. Now where I am in Ontario, I can just call up the ESA, the Electrical Safety Authority, and they'll open a permit for me, give them my credit card number, they'll charge me $65 or whatever for the 2 plugs. I'll have an inspector out here in the next few days. He'll pass the rough-in, and in the meantime, I can actually take pictures of the steel plates, okay? And then I can close this wall right away, get on with my day, hang my cabinets, do my backsplash, build my rest of my countertop. Today we are finishing off our countertop. We're gonna install a large format counter so that you can install brand new looking stone on top of your old Formica and give your kitchen a really awesome refresh. So what we're talking about here is an 8-foot, $400 countertop that gives you all the benefits of a natural stone because you can put pots directly on it. I mean, it's a rectified porcelain that I bought. And a sleek modern look, right? It's a DIY project. There's a few tricks and tips to this so that you don't have to over order on your material. But first thing we got to do, we want to cut out our sink because we need to know the end from the beginning before we get moving forward. So let's do that first. It looks like this. It even comes with the template, which is going to be this cardboard. I'm going to confirm that with the directions, then we can get started. All right, now usually, normally, you can see there's a hole that's in the top of the stainless steel here, and this is integrated, so you want to cut your countertop like this as well. Give yourself lots of room because there's always a locking mechanism nut on the underside. You don't want to have anything in the way. So your stone should have this cut. Nice and simple. Let's just have a look at what I bought here. Well, this is a really nice sink, actually. I actually went to try to go to Habitat for Humanity to buy a kitchen sink because this is a simple bar. I didn't have to be too picky. I was like interested in maybe reusing something else, but okay, there we go. Turned out that the 12 sinks that were there just a few days ago were all sold. This kind of thing happens. So I went down to the local hardware store and I found out that they only had one sink left. Wouldn't it be the big surprise? It was the most expensive thing that they have on the market. Hoorah. So what we have is stainless steel, heavy gauge. It's even got the spray on the back. It eliminates condensation. That is going to fit this hole perfectly. All right, let's get our template out. Make sure that it makes sense. Wow, they're leaving us with just a little bit of mercy here, aren't they? Okay, I'm not a big fan of that. Okay, now you'll see here, the template is square, but the edge is rounded. Okay, and the idea here is these are where these locking pins go. If you've never done a sink before, the hardware goes in here and it sits inside the hole. And then once you drop it in, it spins around and locks against the underside. So because the hardware isn't going to go in the corner, I'm actually going to cheat with my template. I'm going to trace it out on my countertop. I'm going to round off all my corners. Okay, because I don't want to have a countertop that's so close to perfect when I'm cutting natural stone. If I overcut, then I'm going to have a little gap with grout in it. It's going to look nasty. So I'm going to just cheat a little bit and put less countertop. So I'm going to have more countertop in the corner than what they're asking for, knowing that even if I round it out, there's nothing in the way of it, okay? That's just experience talking. Now let's move on with location. There is nothing wrong with having a sink further back, okay? Now, my cabinet has got a lot of meat. I'm 4 inches from here. I'm 5/8 from here. So the framing on the underside is actually 4 5/8. That's how much wood I have under here. I guess the $1,000,000 question is it all necessary? Not all of it. I also want to have the sink centered on the door. And then when I install my door, I can center that as well. So that's at 10. I can translate that information up here. Let's put a center line on the template. 11 3/8. And if you're not sure how to do this, when you measure something, you take the full number, you cut that in half, take the fraction, which is 3/8, you just double the denominator, the number on the bottom, so 8 goes to 16. So it becomes 11 3/16. That's all that is. Put a center mark on that, center mark on that. Line these up. Let's get our sink back as far as we can without making it look too ugly. Remember, it's sitting on top of the counter. I think what I'm also going to do is go like this. I'm going to use the square on the template. and draw a longer line. Okay. Now, I can move that line center of my square. I can line this up here, knowing I'm going square to everything. I don't have any mercy here. I got gable, I got that, and I got framing, and I got that. Whew, wow, this really is about almost too perfect for the hole. I wish I had options. I would have got something a little smaller. So I got 22¼ inches inside. Yeah, I knew it. This is 22 5/8. So I'm going to have this much material underneath that's going to have to be removed. Not happy, but I have to change my entire plan and put the sink in the middle. At the end of the day, anything that I try to do to fit it over this space, which was the original design, is going to leave me with a structurally compromised cabinet. I'm building a tile countertop after all. I can't compromise the cabinet. I mean, I need to be able to carry the weight and not have things moving around or the grout's going to crack. It's going to delaminate from the countertop. I got to go here. So the good news is my plan for the upper cabinets was to get something from a local building store that's in stock, that's off the shelf, that doesn't change. And that's good. Sometimes you just got to lick your wounds and move on, right? So we're going to go here. Now we can center this off. Right, we're 27 inches. Center of 27 is 13½. About here. All right, yay. And center of this template is 11 3/8. At the end of the day, having a sink off the middle is more balanced. I'm just going to lose a bit of good storage. But that's not going to be the end of the world. So now, let's line this up. Let's line this up. Let's leave enough room back there. Okay, make sure everything's square. And let's draw out our template. Okay, done. Now we just got to grab a drill and a jigsaw, and we'll cut this out of our way. Drilling some holes, we're going to see if we even clear this framing back here. Important to take a look at the width of your blade, make sure you're not going to extend out past where you're working. Okay, baby. That's right on the wood there. Maybe that'll fit. We're gonna try to get lucky. Okay, here's a great secret for anybody who's doing this sort of thing. Take a scrap piece of wood, screw it, take it out a little bit so it spins easy. Okay, you can move it out of your way, but when you get right to the last part of the cut, at least this will hold it in position while you finish your cut, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to start my jigsaw here, out of the way, work around the back, go like that, and when I'm getting near the end I can be carrying the weight, and it'll also carry the weight here, okay? And then just before I release it, I'll put that there so that I can be under control. There are times when it's nice to have things under control. Okay, now I need a jigsaw. All right, time for my jigsaw. All right, so here we are. I got a broken blade inside my end, which is why that's not working. Things happen. I'm gonna move on and use a combination of 2 other different tools. I guess the good side is you get to see all the solutions to all the problems you're gonna run into if you live the same crazy life like I do. Here we go. Well, that's actually gonna work for me. Okay, let's make a mess. Oh, one thing. Hardly ever wear these things, but when you're messing with Formica, I'm telling you right now, this stuff's unpredictable and it will slice your eyeball wide open. And like this and like this. There we go. The cool thing about this is the center board here, I have a support, carries the load all the way down, but it also picks up the load, the support going all the way across the back. So now I got gable supports on both sides. All right, now, here we are. Okay. Now you see how important it is to keep countertop here? Once we're done, we're gonna drill that hole out. And then there will be a structure intact that I can actually tighten my nut to keep my handle nicely compressed. We're gonna have to pay close attention to that when it comes time to working with the stone. Cut our stone maybe a little bit closer to here, right across this line here. That way it's just a simple drill. So step one in doing a tile countertop is have it cut properly, straight across and square. That technique was actually in the previous video because we were prepping the cabinet. Make sure you check that out if you haven't. Now that we've got this done, it's time to move on to step two. Then of course is to rough up the surface with a light sanding. That's right. I didn't get a DeWalt sander. I needed a new one. Last time I used a sander, it was on my fire table and I did it wet and it killed it. And I knew that was gonna happen, but I picked up this one instead. I was out shopping, I almost got my DeWalt because I love DeWalt tools. And I went, wait a second, you're not sponsored by DeWalt. Why don't you just buy the best deal that's on the counter? Turns out this sucker was actually 50 bucks cheaper. Yep, I know. And it comes with this converter here. Straight to the vacuum. Now, this next part's gonna be a little noisy, but that's because I'm gonna run the vacuum and the sander at the same time. Now, I'm not trying to sand off the finish, I'm just scuffing it up. We're using a multi-surface bonding primer or a latex primer just so that our Thinset, our ultralight Thinset we're gonna use for the countertop has something to adhere to that's not gonna delaminate. So this is just a mechanical function. It's good to use it. Wow, that's brand new. Okay, here we go. Introducing multi-surface bonding primer. I'm not selling a product here. There's actually a lot of companies that make a version of this. Mapei makes Eco Prime Grip. I've used that for years as well. I use this right now because it's available at Home Depot and because there's no real online source for the Eco Prime Grip, so trying to use products you can get your hands on. This works great. The idea here is this product is a bonding primer for any two surfaces so they don't delaminate. So you can go tile over vinyl sheet goods if it's glued to concrete, tile over tile, lots of applications. In this case, it's tile over Formica. The reason we sand it is because once you scuff up a surface, a bonding primer has the ability to really get in there and grab it. And this is gonna look really messy and silly and you're like, this is no way this is gonna work. Trust me on this. This stuff is chemistry magic. You don't have to understand how it works. You just got to know that it does. Okay? And really, we're just going to slop it on because, oh, it's so effective. And you want it on every surface, every cut. Don't worry about getting it on the walls. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay? This bonds so well that one piece of tile I'm using on the countertop is actually structurally sound enough to now add additional strength against deflection. And we're gonna run out, just add a little bit there. Okay, here we go. I'll just finish this off. And then we're gonna have to let this dry. It's gonna take about an hour or two. Alrighty then. Basically guys, what's going on here is I'm cutting and installing this trim flush to the edges. I'm doing an overlay in the corner instead of cutting 45s. My tile is actually not as thick as this trim. So it's not going to hurt anything to do an overlay. Okay? And this little corner piece just goes like that, all right? Now, the rest of this will be full of cement, and I'm going to trowel it, but this little overlay isn't going to matter. It's going to hold everything together for now, so that's awesome. Here we go. Woohoo! Okay, well, I got a chip corner, so I'm definitely going to be cutting that one. As you can tell, the tile is really big. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put one here. I've already checked it. The sink, where the sink finishes, and one tile is actually pretty much the same size. So this is just perfect. I'm going to put one here, and then I got to decide how I'm going to do the rest. But just want to translate my numbers here. Get my numbers. So I want to get my tile cut in advance. And because this is my lead edge, because of the chip, I actually have to translate the wrong side. 24, 5/8. Okay. So we're going to connect the dots. I'm going to cut that down, and I'm going to save the offcut and cut a piece that fills in here. Because of this little piece in the corner, it allows my offcuts to mirror image what's on the top. So that's going to work perfectly. What I want to do is I want to just kind of cut all my stone first. I always call this stone. It's actually porcelain. I'm going to cut it all first, and then I'm going to lay it out. Make sure that I'm happy with the way it's going to look before I make the cement. Give yourself some working time. It's nice to do this in advance. When you're doing custom tile, you got to make a couple of intelligent decisions. One is my first tile goes underneath my sink lid. So I'm going to start the next one in the same location. So I'm 30 inches before I have a grout line. Okay? That'll be really good for maintenance. And it'll leave me with a piece here, but I don't care. I'm going to translate that piece into my grout line on the face of this as well. So it'll be simple. There'll be one grout line somewhere over here and down the front, and two little ones here. Works for me. I'll be happy with that. At least this way I'll have a nice big piece of stone on each side of the sink helping to carry that load, right? And it'll transfer it over because it's really strong porcelain. So what I got to do now, I'm going to just get a couple more measurements before I go to grind. 24 3/4. And then over here is the same. Good. So I'm going to trace my line. And of course, the face of the trim needs a 1 1/8 piece. So I'm going to mark that on here as well. All the cut lines will go on the back wall, and then I'll bring my backsplash tile down to it. Now for everybody who isn't sure, Jeff, you're crazy. You're using such a huge tile. How in the world are you going to cut 30-inch tile? It's too big for the wet saw. And I'm going to show you a technique with your grinder because I don't expect everybody to go out and spend $1,000 on a scratch tool for this size of tile. Try to get 1 1/8 on a scratch tool. Good luck. It's not going to work. And we don't want to be throwing any of this in the garbage. We want to use this stuff, right? So let's just be careful. I'm going to show you my technique with my hand grinder where you can get a perfectly nice finished cut and you're going to be real happy with it. And it's a professional look, okay? It's not a cheesy way to do this. Just got to be patient. We're going to cut a couple of stones on camera for you so you can get a feel for how easy this is. Now I know that takes a few minutes, but now I've got 4 of the 8 cuts that I have to make for the whole countertop. I think it's worth it. Invest in a grinder and a blade because this is a tool you can use over and over and over again, where if you're going to buy a scratch tool to do this, you run the risk of it not breaking nice and needing to go back to the store for more tile, or you're going to need to buy a $2,000 wet saw, right? Keep it simple and just take an extra few minutes to get the job done perfect every time. Right over to the sink. Okay, and then we'll just make an adjustment here to nice and nice. I still hear buzzing in the room. So I'm just taking the time to dry fit everything. Turns out that this edge here is just a hair long right on the corner. So I'm going to grind that back. Wonderful thing about that tool is I can make modifications like that real easy. I'm just going to take a piece of paper here. Let's get the last couple measurements. 5, 5 by, should be 24. Okay, and then I need a piece across the front, and then this front, and then one in the back. And I want to go up to just in front of where the faucet goes on this one. 2 inch, give a nice support across the back. Okay, it should be the same dimension, 22 1/4. Yep. And then the same on the front here. So that's by 1 1/8 on the front. This one, we have a metal bracket right there, right? That's just sitting inside the lip. So I'm going to measure from the lip. I'm 3.5 shy. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then 4 more. That's my side. Okay. All right, let's do this. So we're just gonna get it all in place. Good. And this is the one to the right over here. Now time to make some Thinset. Today I'm gonna use Ultralight. Ultralight is a fabulous product because it dries relatively quick. Gives you a really superior bond. In this particular case, what it does is it really peaks up. So I'm allowed to lay all my stone, then I can use a rubber mallet on large tile like this to just gently tap the corners where I want to have everything perfectly flush. Could use leveling clips, but in the hurry to get this video made, I didn't bring them with me. So I don't know if I have any in storage. I'm not going to waste my time. I literally have 3 joints. So I think I'm just going to rely on my experience, but you could use a leveling clip system if you wanted to. Well, we have that in other videos if you need to check that out. Here's my secret to mixing Thinset so you don't get filthy dirty, okay? Here you go. Make sure you always put water in the pail first. Read the instructions on the back. It gives you the mixture levels, all right? Have a good mixing blade. Add your cement into the water. Always, if you put the cement in first and then mix, you're gonna have all kinds of dry corners and messes. Get a slow mixer. Something like this from DeWalt will work great. Lock your chuck on. Go slowly. If it does this with the peak, it's ready. But this is Ultralight. This particular product needs to be whipped until it's more like whipped cream that you put on your pie. That's not enough, it's too dry. So you're gonna add a little bit more water. Be careful, this reacts a lot like pancake batter. There you go. Now you let it sit for about 10 minutes before you use it. And you'll always stay nice and clean if you only make half a pail at a time. So, here we are. So now that my Thinset is set up, okay, it's got a little bit of stiffness to it. I trowel it and it's gonna hold the line. That's what you wanna see, okay? So we're gonna get some cement on the counter. We're gonna trowel the counter in. We're going to back butter our tiles as we go. We're gonna get an incredible bond and we're gonna make this place look spectacular in about 15 minutes. Okay. You wanna just keep material on there, set it to your edge, press it down, and then rake it away. All right? We'll do this over and over and over again. It's always easier to put the right amount of Thinset in there, knowing the ridges will collapse, so that it finishes flush, okay? If you put too much in, then you're gonna be in war trying to force that Thinset out as you pound on it with a rubber mallet. Increases the likelihood that you're gonna break a tile. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna try it with this trowel first. This is a 1/4 by 3/8 by 1/4, which basically means 1/4 inch wide, 3/8 deep, 1/4 inch wide. And I'm gonna try to leave enough Thinset there and trowel on that angle consistently so every ridge is about the same. And because I'm using this transition on top of the countertop, I'm automatically going to be higher all around the perimeter. And that's okay because it's easy to squish out at the perimeter because it can go out and up through my grout line. All right, so this is actually not a problem. This is a good thing. All right, now, large format tile. You want to comb all of the Thinset in one direction. The industry has a term for it. Guess what? Yeah, it's gonna blow your mind. It's called directional troweling. I know. Woo! As long as you use fancy words like that when you're telling people what you did, they will think you are a genius and know what you're doing. If all you gotta do in this world is say, I use directional troweling and back butter when I tile, and everyone will think you're an expert. Here we go. I mean, it works for everybody on TV, right? Okay, time to butter my toast, eh? It's funny, they all say the same thing, back butter, but then no one shows you that they know how to do it. The secret here is really fill in the texture of the tile on the back with a thin layer of Thinset so that everything in the directional, when you collapse the ridges, has something to bond to. What we're gonna do is just set it and forget it. Boom. Right now my tile is a little raised. What I'm gonna do, just give it enough love that it comes flush with my metal top. Perfect. Now, this is the perfect time to wipe it all off. Make sure you don't have any Thinset on there. Pencil lines, whatever else have you. Here comes your first trick when you're tiling. You take your carpenter pencil and you sharpen the edge nice and thin and flat to the size of your grout line. And you can get rid of all the extra cement that would otherwise be in your grout space, okay? And then when you're done your tile job, there's no grout to chisel out. Piece of cake. I'm gonna do the entire top and then set the sink in right away. As you can tell, a lot of sinks when they're surface mount, they have bracket lines like this. This has to be on the interior of the cut-in of the Formica so that you can put in the locking mechanisms. I am setting a little piece of stone on each side of where the faucet mount is with a big glob of cement, okay? And when I set the sink in, I'm gonna let that level that, okay? Same with the back. This is the piece that goes along the back of this counter. I'm gonna just kind of flatten out. I'm gonna go excessive here, okay? It's easier for me to fix this when I drop the sink in. I'm going to try to do a little bit of directional troweling, but you can see how difficult this is gonna be, right? So you're gonna have a hell of a time trying to do a good job here. Sometimes what I would recommend is do the directional troweling on your tile, back butter the counter. Instead, you do a combination of both. Doesn't really matter, as long as you get the height right. So we're gonna set the next couple of pieces in, get the next big tile in, drop in the sink, give everything a bit of a wiggle to make sure it's in the right spot, and then we'll be okay. Mucho bueno. Okay, so what we're gonna do is a technique here. I'm gonna slide the trowel down and slowly leave a ridge of cement behind. And this is the point in the video where everybody's like, I wonder why he is using ultralight. And it's this. Ultralight carries 40 pounds per square foot on a ceiling. And in this scenario, if you put it on nice and thick like this, you can recess it in the hole and then press and squeeze the extra cement out right until it's flush. And you don't need to add any tape or anything else to set this up. Just get it flush. You can use your pencil, clean out your grout line. There's no fussing around tomorrow when we come to grout. There, done. I'm just gonna stick the next few pieces in. In today's video, guys, we are installing brand new kitchen cabinets for my uppers. The reason I have my sink installed right now is because I need this to install my cabinets. I've got a line going through the middle of my faucet, the middle of my drain, so I know I'm square to the wall. It's gonna give me a middle line on the wall, okay? If you're installing kitchen cabinet uppers, generally it's you're adding to something that doesn't exist or you're installing a new kitchen, the uppers go first, okay? Every kitchen design, you'll put the uppers in and then you'll do the base cabinets because it's too hard to stand off the wall like this all day long. It'll kill your back, right? So you put in the uppers first. what I've got to do in this situation is I've got to work off a center line and then build left and right. I don't want to guess where my line starts. This is a lot easier to do. So now I can take this cabinet. For instance, I already have a center line on it. That just made my life so much easier, right? Okay, so there's my center, there's my center. Now what I have to do is just a couple of measurements. I want to actually take out a marker, mark the height, measure down on the actual cabinet depth. I'm going to install a piece of wood here that I can set this on while I screw it in place. It's really that simple. Gotta love a laser level. Well, first of all, this cabinet is actually 18. So it's an 18 by 30, okay? We also have 24 by 30s, okay? And when you buy a cabinet and it says 18 by 30, they mean 30. It's not like tile. The numbers are true. So, exactly 30. My other cabinets are 24 by 30s. So what I want to do here is just find my 18-inch line. And this is funny because I actually drew that on before the counters went in. And my 18-inch line is pretty consistent right there. Okay? And then I want to double check my 30. And it is a 1/4 inch higher than that. Okay, and then I'm going to mark down 18. That's where my cabinet is going to go. That's my base. Okay, boom. And I don't mean kind of level. When you're doing cabinetry, you want on the bloody money level, okay? There we go. There's my spots. There's 2 different processes for putting cabinets in. One of them is identifying the studs, screwing the cabinet to the stud, and the other one is hanging the next cabinet off of the existing cabinets and then adding screws to it later. In this situation, we're going to screw right into the stud right out of the gate. And I'm going to put this mark above my wood. And if you don't know how to use a stud finder, well, it's not always perfect either, so be careful. Wow, what happened here? There it is again. Okay, let's try and see if we get lucky. There it is, okay. That is a stud. Nice, there should be one right around here. Yep. And just slide it and it'll scream, and then we're gonna aim for the middle of those spots, okay? Because it is not a perfect science, but for 18 bucks, right? That's a hell of a deal. This is my line for the top, so I'm gonna look up there and find that spot exactly and drive those in. Now, I'm using a 3-inch screw. Oop. Come on, baby. Which means I've got 1.5 inch material plus 1/2 inch drywall. This is 2 inches. Plus electrical code requires there be a plate unless the wire is more than 1.5 inches away from the surface. So I have 3.5 inches of clearance here, so I'm not worried about the screw. I'm screwing blind, but if this situation, I'm pretty confident we're not going to run into or screwing through electrical. It's never a perfect world. If you're nervous about that, you can always cut away the drywall, look, and then put the drywall back, okay? And then you can be more confident. All right, now, we don't need to have doors installed to hang a cabinet. It does add a fair amount of extra weight to the box, just so you understand the workings of a box. This is a solid surface box, which means the entire back here is going to be at least 3/8, probably 1/2 inch solid backing. In a lot of cases, what you'll find it's going to be like an 1/8 inch hardboard, and you're going to see a 1x3 and a 1x3 on the back, okay? Either way, you're always going to be putting a screw within the first 2 inches on the top or the 2 inches on the bottom, all right? So it doesn't matter which kind of cabinet you get. They all follow the same principle. Okay. I'm liking that. So then I'm going to pre-drill into the back with the screws. You're ready to hang this thing. It's a fair amount of commitment going on there, isn't it? Okay. We'll do the same with the other one. Now I'm not drilling all the way through the cabinet, I'm just setting the screws in place. Here comes the magic. We're going to lift this up. We're going to set that in the middle here. We're going to make sure my line is right up the middle again, connecting these two dots. We'll slide that into position, and then you can visually check to see if your screws are in the right spot, and they are. I would suggest put the top screw in first because that's what's going to keep it from falling off. If you're not sure what the sound of driving a screw into wood is, that's it. Lots of resistance. In the finishing stage, I'm going to show you, they sell these little white caps at the Home Depot and the little trays, little plastic trays in the screw aisle. And they're actually designed to just stick over the screws, and they're white. So then you can't see your screws after the fact. So you want to install them nice and flush. There we go. And then the bottoms. And the reason we're putting in four screws is they carry 80 pounds of shear strength each. That's 360 pounds, this one cabinet. That's a lot. And if you want to make sure you don't slip off your screw, like I did over there like an idiot, push on the drill with both hands when you're pulling the trigger. All right. Now don't get worked up over these doors. They're all adjustable, okay? We're working on the box, not the doors. We'll get to that in a minute, but perfect. Okay, next cabinet. Here we go. 24 by 30. A couple of considerations. One, you're gonna want to take the door off for this one. It is a really heavy cabinet, and there's shelves that come in with this. All right, so we're gonna just undo this screw just a little bit right here so that we can take the door off, okay? Every bit of hardware is different in this world, eh? There we go. This comes with little pins for the shelves. Don't just throw things in the garbage, always inspect. And then it comes with these things. They're little shelf slider brackets. This is just for shipping, to keep everything from sliding around. These are garbage, okay? Take our shelves and set those aside. So we also have stickers. We want to get rid of this right away. Okay? All right, now we have a hinge over here. When you're doing a kitchen or your layout or you're ordering cabinets, just a thought, always consider the function of the cabinet, because kitchens have places, they have like regions. You have the sink, and if you're going to be working at the sink and washing something and putting the dishes away, you want the door to open. When you're standing here, you don't want the door open into you, okay? So consider how this functions, what's going to be going in that cabinet, how the cabinet functions in the space. If this is a bigger counter and this is a prep counter, and this is the only upper, you might flip this the other way so that you can open it up and have all of your contents, right? Just keep that in mind. In particular cabinets I bought, I got them these in the Home Depot. They're pre-built, they're pre-everything. Yeah, you don't have to build them, but you do need to consider how they're going to function and make sure you install them in the right direction. They're completely reversible, and so are the doors, okay? So they don't have like a right side up, which makes it really handy. If you get into doing custom kitchen cabinets, in a lot of cases, they'll be labeled left or right hand. So be real careful to make sure if you're installing cabinets that you've ordered, match up those codes perfectly. Look at the diagram, refer to the diagram, how the door is supposed to swing open, all of that information when you're installing, so you don't run into trouble down the road. This is my secret weapon. I'm installing the cabinet this way, and I need a piece of plywood, and I want it right in the middle. I'm going to throw a flooring screw, which has got very thick thread, through that plywood and right through the middle of the gable, okay? It's in the middle of the cabinet, in the middle of my plywood, straight down, and hold it still. And not loose. This one you want nice and tight. Okay? Boom. And here's why. Now you can take this cabinet and you can stick it up in the air against the wall, slide it over, and then let it sit on there while you're working it. And so you only need one hand now. This is a great way to work. Now, I'm going to set this aside for a second. because I still want to try to identify where my studs are, measure off, and put at least one screw in that box in advance, okay? So before we get going, I'm going to take this door off. I'm going to use a couple of hand clamps to put this all together. There's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Oh. Not that I think any of you have need to skin cats anymore. Great. Come on, baby. Yeah, I'm sorry if that offends you. That's a really old expression. I don't even know where it came from. I just know that I've heard that from older people in my life for years. Let's talk about the screws for screwing the cabinets together. Because in this situation, we're going to use the top to help carry the weight. We're going to use clamps to line up the edges. And these work great because they keep them compressed while you're driving screws. And then we've got a few different screws here to look at. This one is 1 1/4 inch and it has that beveled head. So if I drive that into 2 pieces of 5/8, I'm exactly the same depth as the cabinet. 5/8 plus 5/8 is 10/8. That's 1 2/8, 1 1/4. Same as the screw. If I drive that just a little bit too much, it pokes through the other side. So that's dangerous. This one is very similar, only is 1 1/8. So as long as I stay flush, I'll just come right to about there. And that works just fine, okay? The other option, you can go with 1 inch. Now, if you do that, you only got 3/8, or you can drive a little deeper, okay? So that's what you get as an option. There's still the square head. They'll still make the little plastic caps for that. That's fine. Here's the best option. 1 1/8 with this positive stop. This particular screw can't go past the surface because of the way that head is made. Okay? There's a real beefy head on it, and it's not going any further. So when you're done screwing that one in, you have to be really careful because you can actually continue that screw to circle around and it'll tear out all of the guts in the wall and you'll actually lose its bond. So this one you have to be really sensitive that you drive it just snug and then walk away. All right, there we go. Up and over and down. Okay, and then this one as well. Okay, now that that's clamped, it's not going anywhere. My concern is making sure that these surfaces are both flush with each other. So I'm really loving what I got going on here, and I'm ready to throw a screw into it right now. Now, good to remember, these pins go in the holes to hold the shelf. The shelf sits on top of this, so the perfect placement for a screw is just underneath the hole. And try to go in between, just behind the hole, above it, above your eye level, so you can't ever see the screw. So if it's below your eye level, you go underneath the shelf, and if it's above your eye level, you go over the shelf. All right, and you won't see the screws. Now, I'm going to screw this one right here, a couple inches back. Done, that's it, right? Just till flush. There we go. I'll do a different kind of screw here. I'm just going to go with the 1 inch. Okay, again, you're going to get a little white cap for this, all right? And you want to be somewhat in the close to the front, okay? That one you want nice and flush. And you saw how that tried to open up as I was screwing in. That happens. We're going to take this, get our laser level out again. We are going to find our other stud. So if that's my stud, I want to put that on the middle of the line. Okay. And now I know where my screw set is going to go. I'm going to have this one just above the shelf here so that you can't see it with that top shelf in play. Before we go any further, you want to make sure this box is square. Remember, it's sitting on a piece of plywood and it's screwed to that cabinet, but look what happens. Okay? Why isn't that square, Jeff? Everything else is flush and square. That's square. These cabinets don't have a lot of individual strength. All right? This one is exactly 18 off the counter. This one is 17 3/4. Okay? This is a 1/4 inch low. Now watch what happens here. A little bit of upward pressure, because I can actually make this mark. That's where my cabinet is right now. I can just give it a bit of a oomph. See how that twists? Okay, so that's what I want to do. I want to lift and push and then screw it in. Okay, before I drive it all the way home, double check. Not quite enough. It's good to know. All right. Jeepers. There we go. Whoo. There we are. That was work. Now, if you're going to do this for a living, they actually make little miniature sticks here that are jacks. And you can just kind of like clamp and you can squeeze a couple times and it lifts it right up. It's really handy. Me, I like pain. Now, I need to throw in a couple more screws, right? Set the tape lock. Look at that. Right there at 1.5 inches. Throw that on the back corner. Go in upside down. 1.5 inches. You see the lines right through the middle of my drill? That's how you know you're nice and square. Okay. Good, good, good. The only thing left to check now is what's 16 on center, right? I've got another stud here. You've got an option because now you got 160 pounds of torque. You're connected to this. You're transferring load. In most people's mind, that's plenty. But remember, big cabinets like this, a lot of cases hold dishes. And if you got stoneware and you put in 10 dinner plates and a bunch of bowls, you'd be surprised how much that stuff actually weighs. Don't push your fasteners to their limit, okay? Let's find that other stud. We already know it's right next to this electrical because we just finished wiring this thing. So we're gonna throw that in there and drop in a couple more screws. All right, I'm putting it just above the last shelf so it disappears. Okay, and then same thing, pull it out, lock the tape, measure the line. It's gonna be 5 and almost a half. Now we're installed. Now we take off the clamps, okay? Now we can put the doors on, and I'm just gonna jump ahead and do the next cabinet. Then I'm gonna come back and show you guys how to level all the doors off, okay? Because that's key. I wanna deal with these little patch issues. The way you would address a patch all depends on what you're going to be finishing on. If it's just an open wall, you can do one of these patches. This is the old California patch, right? You put mud on all 4 sides. And then take a piece of drywall out and you cut it so that it's bigger than the hole, okay? Basically, we're eyeballing the size of the hole and we're going to scratch it into the drywall. Okay, both directions. And then we're going to peel the drywall off the face paper. The sharper the knife you use on this, the cleaner the cut, by the way. All right. Now, we're going to take a little bit of mud here, and we're just going to throw it on all 4 sides where it's going to make contact with the existing drywall. All right. And you put it in place. There we go. Press it flush with the existing wall. And then just work the mud to the corners. And if you don't have enough, you can add it behind and simply close it up. Okay, that is what we call a California patch. And the reason we like this is because the drywall paper that's on the drywall face is thinner than the paper that comes on the rolls. So generally it takes 1 coat of finish time out of your job. Once you've done that, you can just add that thin coat all the way around. Okay, and then you can wait it until tomorrow or a couple hours. You can throw a fan on it and then put the last skim coat. You'll be good to go. All right. Beautiful. The next kind of patch is if you've got a plug. These things are a pain in the butt. You can push them all the way through, or you can get a hammer and you can rip them out, or you can just go like this, right, with your knife and chop the head off. Take the heel, and always buy a 4-inch knife with a metal heel, and make a bit of a dent, Other holes make a bit of a dent. Easier to fill a hole than to create a bump when you're patching over something, okay? See that? Those holes are filled. You might need to do 2 coats because this stuff does shrink when it dries. The third patch, probably never seen before. This is my favorite patch. You take a piece of drywall tape and you put it where you're going to patch a hole. I've never shown this trick on my video before. Now you take your drywall tape that you're going to use to patch the hole and you simply cut the wall around the tape. And you can leave a little bit of extra space if you like. Well, the idea is you peel the paper off, and then when you set this in, now it's the same surface, so you don't create a hump. One of the difficulties in doing kitchen cabinets, especially if it's a long run, like a 10-foot wall, or around the window of the kitchen and the cabinets are all continuous, is the fact that wooden structures tend to go like this, okay? To no fault of your own. Even if you try to make your walls perfect, wood just does weird things. And so here I am with this cabinet screwed tight to the wall. This one's tight to the wall, but my cabinets aren't lining up. And it's not because they're manufactured wrong, it's because I've got obviously a stud here that's causing a hump. So the way we fix this, we leave the clamps on. I literally have to undo that screw, and we're gonna go right in the same spot, but what this does is it gives me the ability, okay, loosen that up, to pull this bottom cabinet forward. So I'm going to shim it with my tool, okay, and see that? Now I've got the ability to push it back, okay? Now I'm going to finish throwing 2 screws in this before I sink that in again. And that is pretty much a process you go through over and over again, which is why it's nice to have those 4 screws in every cabinet. So you've got the ability to back off the tension, twist things around a little bit. This is what the secret sauce is in doing cabinets. Making sure that everything is flush at the front, or you're going to have a hell of a time trying to make all the doors look pretty. Okay. Now, we're going to just carry on like normal. I'm going to take that off and then drive this screw home. Okay? Without over tightening. Do not want to break this beautiful joint. Cheers. So here we are with our doors for the base cabinets. They're basically painted. I think this one needs one more shot, but I'm going to install it on camera today because Max is here and we're dealing with the right subject matter. I'll just take it off the hinge and get the last coat on later, but I wanted to show you this. This is a special kind of hinge. This is designed to wrap around stick framing, okay? And so it goes on the door like that, and your door will open, okay? Piece of cake. What we're gonna do is find a very consistent place on the doors to put the hinges, and that'll be this line coming across to the hinge. And I'm just going to make a quick little mark in the middle of all these 3 holes. Okay, top and bottom. There we are. Now we're going to take our drill and pre-drill our holes, something really super tiny. Yeah. Now just to make sure, you can always make sure by putting the screw behind the drill bit and make sure you can still see the threads. That actually might be a little bit too thick. We're going to go to a 1/16, which is almost non-existent. Look how tiny this is. Look at it, this is a pre-drill. Okay. There we go. Just a little something something to make sure that the screw is going into the middle of the hole, okay, which is really the goal here. Somewhere for the screw to start. This is why pre-drilling is so important. You have to have 13 fingers to do this. All right, again, don't over tighten the screw. you're just going to core out the building material. Once it's snug, and you're done. Okay, that's all there is to it. You have with this kind of hinge is there's not a lot of flexibility. You don't have the ability, like we're going to show you in a minute, we're going to adjust these doors. You don't have different screw settings, moving things clockwise and in and out and off the... You're only going to get to put it on a stick frame and that's it. So that's why your stick framing has to be nice and flush. All right, now, just a trick. I'm lucky because a 2x4 is exactly the gap that I want. I can just set this on there and then same thing. I can start a little pre-drill. The only flexibility I have with this system is I can put the screw in the middle of the slot because this is an adjustable height channel. Now I'm going to go with the middle for the screws because I'm installing 3 doors over a length on concrete. I put them all at the very top in the same distance and use the 2x4. I might find something that's like, wow, that looks ugly. I got to make an adjustment because the floor could be dipping. So I'm leaving myself a little bit of room here for adjustment. Okay. Okay, now let's get that out of the way. Boom, we got a door. Okay, one more thing. The hardware kit from Richelieu for the doors comes with the screws and these little felt tabs. It's a peel and stick, and you just stick it on the corners where it makes contact with the wood. Okay, we're going to set these aside. A, because I think I'm going to spray that door one more time. And B, yeah, they're a little small and cheap. There's actually better quality ones you can go grab the Home Depot. They're a little thicker. Look at the difference here. I'm going to go with something thicker. I don't think I'm going to end up using these. All right, so when you're adjusting doors, you want to watch for a few main things. One is that the door is square to the box, okay? We've gone through great lengths here to make sure that the boxes are level and plumb. So if the door is level to the box, top and bottom, both sides, make sure it's not overhanging one side or the other, okay? This door is actually perfect, except for this. When I open it up, it's really tight at the top, really loose at the bottom. Okay, so in this situation, I'm going to loosen this screw just a bit and see how there's room for that to play. I'm going to get rid of that not so tight. Oh, okay, there we go. And I'm going to, because right now the bottom's still way wacky. See the door, it has movement. We want to make sure that it closes together. Now the bottom is closing before the top. There, now they're both closing together. Right here I got a nice 1/8, and then the door is actually hanging out further than the cabinet. You can see this gap here is widening. That means this door needs to go like this. So let's take a look at what the solution here. We have these adjustment screws, and you've got to go in reverse with these to back the screw out, which brings the hinge back in. And that will square things off, okay? The same with this one. Same thing on the other side. All right, now this is nice gap here. This one is not so nice. I probably adjusted too much. I want them consistent here. I want gaps here consistent. This one, the top is sticking out too far. I'm gonna make an adjustment there. There we go. Now the only thing I can do now is make sure that all 3 of these gaps are consistent, which means this door and this door both need to go that way because the gap is too much, or this door can come this way. You can do either one. It's easier to move one door than 2. Okay. There we go. Now to do really precise work, don't use a drill, use a screwdriver. I've just been a lot of experience with these things, and I can, right? It's touch control. So if you don't have a lot of experience with your tools, grab a regular screwdriver and you can go quarter turn. You can keep track of the math. It'll help you a lot. Now we're at a point, time to put our handles on. Yes, and I'm cheap. I bought knobs instead of 2 screw handles, and I'll tell you why. A, it's half the price. B, it's half the time to install. C, you don't need an expensive jig in order to put it on, right? All you gotta do is go like this and measure from this point, which is the inside corner of the door, to the outside corner of the door, okay? And if it makes it easier, you can start on a whole number like 2. So I have got 3 1/4 inches, which means half of 3 1/4 is 1/2 plus 1/8, which makes it 1 5/8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that tape measure there, and I'm going to go 1/2 5/8. That's my hole. That's one way to do it. Or if you don't like the location, you can also go in the middle of the door. Middle of the door. You can go middle of the door here. I'm just a bit of a big fan of this. I always found that that's a really nice spot, right? Split the difference of the width of that shaker trim on both areas. So just by measuring corner to corner and going in the middle of it on your tape measure, it gets you dead center of both of these lines. Okay? Package comes with a screw. This screw is good for a single door. If you're doing drawers, you're going to have to go to the store and buy longer screws with the cutoff. We covered that information. We did a video in my closet in my farmhouse series. All the information on putting hardware in there and those custom situations is in that video. I'll put a link in the video description if you really need to check that out. And then we're looking now for a hole that's wider than the screw. Okay, so we're going to go over here. Yep, that's perfect. 3/16. All right. Double check. Is an 1 1/4 going to hit anything? The answer is no. Good to go. Once you have got everything level and square, then you can drill holes, not before. Okay? You might find that you're in a really funky old house and the walls are everywhere and you just can't level your cabinets perfect. So you've got to make them look like they're perfect, but they're not level. In those situations, you might want to use a laser level, or you can just drop a line across all your cabinets with a laser on a stick like I have. And don't worry about if they're all in the same spot on the cabinet door. When you're putting in, here, let me show you. If all my cabinets are out of alignment, okay, but all the knobs are level, the knobs scream. And if they're like this across your kitchen, even if they're in the perfect position, it looks stupid. So you got to decide for yourself, is my kitchen installed level and plumb enough that I can put the screw in the same spot? Or do I got to make sure I drop a laser line and put all my knobs in the same spot? It's not a simple question to answer. Of course, the screw comes from the back side. And same thing, start this on reverse. And when you hear that click, you go in forward and you drive it in. Okay, remember, the metal in here is a lot stronger than the metal here. So if you're cross-threading, the drill is so powerful, it'll force it in there and then just shear the screw off. Now you're stuck with a piece of screw inside your handle and it's useless. So always go backwards until you hear that click. Okay, we'll do it again. Okay, and then you go forward. Now you know you're not cross-threaded. In today's video, I'm putting in a brand new backsplash with nothing but a pair of tile snippers. That's right. This video is dedicated to everybody out there who doesn't have a ton of tools or a ton of experience. This is a simple DIY project. Cheers. So 2 things. One, I went to Home Depot yesterday and I bought all the stuff. So it's available. Just go to the store. Number 2, doing a tile backsplash is a DIY project. And I've seen a lot of videos online lately where people are making major mistakes. They don't even know it yet. First thing we want to do before we get started, I've got a couple of marks on my wall from when I installed my cabinets in the previous video. This is all part of the series of this church kitchen remodel. I'm going to just oil that all up real good. Make sure that those stains don't come through. This is video number 6 of our kitchen remodel. We repurposed the cabinets, did a tile countertop, hung cabinets. We painted the old cabinets, moved some electrical around. And now I'm going to show you this, how to install your backsplash. Just a few easy steps. Anybody can do this, all right? If you have a knife and you go to the store and you buy a pair of tile nippers, they're called, okay? Snips. and some sort of scissors. These are crazy huge, but they'll do the job. I'm working on 3 different jobs at the same time right now, so I can never find my tools. I just use what's available. Here you go. This is what a tile sheet looks like nowadays, okay? You got to pick your tile, and you'll get something like this, and there's a mesh backing. It's adhesive, all right? And basically, you can stick tile like this on the wall. And the reason I love this kind of project is because when you get to your plugs, right, you can basically line this up. You can measure your gap, cut the backing. Okay, check this out. Now you've cut around your plug. Okay, when you set that in the adhesive, you're good to go. The reason this works is because you can buy this. It's from Eaton. I got this at Home Depot. It's a cover plate for your electrical. It's a 2-part snap-on plate. These screws go into the fixture that's screwed in here, all right, and sit on over top of the hole, and this one snaps over top of it. So no matter if you're half an inch off one way or the other, okay, even if you have a huge gap on one side, this plate is so huge that it still covers. What I'm using today for my backsplash, penny tile, both of these work. This is a ceramic, so all you need to cut is this. You no wet saw, no squirts, no grinder, nothing. All right, a $17 pair of snips. That's all you need. And you can have the same effect and just use the knife to cut out the penny tiles. Use these if you need to cut out in half because it's ceramic. They're easy to work with. I'll show you that in the video. And you can cut around any obstacle that you have, all right? No need to go invest major money in tools. By the way, in the market right now, if you want to hire someone to do a backsplash this big, okay, I would charge someone $600 to $800 to show up and do that job right now. That's the market. So this is $15 a square foot for this expensive glass stuff. These are less than half price. Gotta love ceramic. So for $6 a square foot, 14 square feet, $100, 17 bucks, get some adhesive. I like the Omni Grip at the Home Depot. It is the most expensive premium brand, but it's worth it because it dries like within an hour. So you can install your tile and grout in the same day. And one of these $3 throwaway trowels, all right? It's just a 3/16 V-notch. Or if you have tools, Schluter-Curti membrane trowel, it's a square notch. It works great for this scenario, okay? That's it. It's like a $100 tile job. Anybody can do this. So one of the first things you need to know about working with penny tile is how you're going to finish on your edge, right? So I've picked this up. It's as a piece of plastic. I'm going to be running it off the edge of the counter. Okay, that's a nice spot. And then coming across into the cabinet right at the underside. Because I'm going to have a straight line, if I install the tile with the penny tile is offset. So you have a nice straight line here, and then you have offset tile here, okay? It's easier to cut these tiles and put them across the bottom and the top because both of those surfaces get a bead of silicone when you're finished. So you can finish it with white silicone. Leave this beautiful row for the right side and the left side to help get a better finish, all right? Now, like I said, these are only $6 a square foot. I bought the whole case. I won't need it all, but because Home Depot sells these by the sheet, you can just take the rest back and get your money when you're finished. Okay, there we go. Throw all our garbage on the floor. So here's my sheet. This is how we're gonna start. We'll just talk about the layout first, okay? Boom. All right, now, I got 2 options. I can start with the full circle and then come back later and cut little bitty pieces and stick them all in. That's gonna be tricky because when we put the Omni Grip on, it dries so fast, okay? You don't wanna do that. You wanna cut this first and then install it, okay? So here's the tile snips, and if you've never seen this before, prepare to have your mind blown. It's this easy. You line it up halfway across the tile, okay? And done. Truth is, a tool like this has been around in the tile world for hundreds of years, long before they had other options, and they only worked with ceramic. Okay, like this is how tile sets made their living for years and years and years. All those subways made out of people using these to cut circles and holes and round plugs, and That's it. That's the whole job. Now I've got the first sheet. Boom. I'm ready to install. I have got a little over 7 of these that I gotta do. Just to make this video less painful to watch, I'm going to do 7 sheets of that, and I'm going to line them all up and be ready to move, and then we'll install all this in a minute. Draw a laser line off the side of this cabinet, okay? That allows me to measure over to the edge of my trim. Now I know my return is 6.5 inches, okay? So I'm gonna just measure that piece onto here and make a mark. Okay, now I'm gonna cut it into a 45 on the back side. You only got 2 options of this trim. You cut 2 separate pieces, or you cut a mold 45 degrees on it, and you bend it over, and then it comes back. And that's how you get your 90, okay? And so then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to hold that nice and level there. And that's where I'm going to cut my trim. And that'd be amazing. So I'm going from the gap to just flush with the cabinet, all right? Enough said. Now we're ready to go. Let's get into the OmniGrip, the building store that I usually go to, the Home Depot. And again, I've said this before, it's just, Lowe's came to Canada late, guys. So, I mean, I spent most of my career shopping Home Depot. I know every SKU on the shelf. I know the people that work there, and I'm not going to relearn all that information just for the sake of a different colored buggy to go shopping with. For the most part, they sell very much the same stuff. And if it has a different brand name on it, in a lot of cases, it's made in the same factory in China. So what the hell's the difference? I like the OmniGrip. There are 3 versions of product on the shelf. Don't buy the cheap one, okay? This is 60 bucks, the cheap one's 30. The cheap one is cheap. Everything slides, it doesn't hold anything. It takes forever to dry. It drives you nuts. It's not the place to save money. Where you save money is by doing it yourself. Buy good products. Do it yourself, get a great result. That's it, okay? Now, we know my tile is going to look like this, something like this, right? We're going to start trying to get the adhesive relatively where I want it to go. I don't want to go wider than I need to. Okay, I can clean it off and everything, no problem. See, like it's just, and a sponge, but if you don't make a mess, you don't have to clean it up, right? Here we go. Now, this is small tile. The secret here is not having too much adhesive on the wall. All right, this isn't about buttering toast, okay? Or adding jam to your bread. This is about getting the product moved around so that it's even and consistent, all right? So get it all over the place. And once you have a good healthy coat everywhere, then we're gonna come back one more time and trowel it all out so it's consistent. And we're gonna work with a small space at a time because it works that fast, okay? And we're going to work from the bottom to the top. Okay? And we're going to clean as we go. And if I don't get a consistent trowel line, I'll throw more product on the wall and go back again. There we go. This is nice. I have more there than I need. Okay? Because we are putting this behind the tile, establish this right out of the gate. All right. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it sure has to be close. And you'll see the only problem I have here is that with penny tile, the tiles are so small I could have an entire tile on that one section with no adhesive. So I do have to come back here, add a little bit more. Now you are not going to have a perfectly smooth wall when you're doing this. The only option to have a smooth wall is not to use the edging. And that means you're going to rely on grout or silicone or something else to cover the edge of your cut tile. I prefer this any day of the week, okay? Here we go. Now it's a water-based adhesive. Don't worry about your counters if you get it on there, okay? You can always take that off with a wet rag later. The way you install tile is you hold the sheet, put it over your arm, okay? Gently, I'm going to say that again, gently press it in place. Slowly roll it up. You don't want to push it into the wall until you've got your line. Okay, you see that? My line's just a little bit off. There we go. You're going to have one of these anyway because you're going to want to grout when you're done. Gently press a large area at a time to set the tile into the adhesive. We're going to measure from the top of the bubble to the top of the cabinet. I got 5 1/4 inches of space. Okay. For this situation, we're going to take a new sheet, hanging the same way. Okay, and we're going to measure from this space right here, because it represents the next tile above that bubble. Okay, 5 1/4, right? 5 1/4 gives me here. This row, the last tile in that row fits in that space. So I'm going to line this up, and I'm going to cut according to that tile all the way across the sheet. And I'm not going to cut it longer and then cut the tiles back. I'm going to cut it shorter and then add the half tiles that I've already cut off. And the reason this works is because these are penny tiles. They're actually 1/2 inch. So because we put our cabinets in at 18 inches, which is the standard in the industry, we have 18 pieces of tile. The fact that they're offset on the grid means we're going to have a half at the bottom of each row. That's all. That's all that means. Okay? If I'm right about this, I should be able to just stick this sheet on right now. And I'm a little bit tall here. You see that? Let's not panic, because sometimes life is this easy. I can just add myself an extra millimeter in height by lifting that up. Now I'm pressed in. Again, grout float to set. And this is where everybody makes the biggest mistake. They put too much of the adhesive and or too much pressure, and then the adhesive gets squished in between the tiles to the point where it's too much of a mess. And you spend hours and hours cleaning the adhesive out. If you are easy on the adhesive, you don't have anything to fill up. You just wipe down the surface when you're done and go. Now, that's done. Take a few of these right away and let's start press down, slide it up and fill the gap. Okay? As low as you can go, gently lift up and then push it tight. All right, and this is how we're going to finish that. Underneath as well. And if you always make sure that you buy tile that fits the space, you'll never have weird gaps with a 1/2 inch of grout underneath your cabinet, forcing you to buy valance and add all kinds of trim carpentry so people can't see the nasty mess you make from the living room. Okay, there we go. That's the whole process. Now we're going to go one row at a time, refreshing our cement as we need to. This box here is actually an electrical box, and we are going to cut our tile up to the edging using the scissors. The only secret we need here is I need a pail and a sponge. All right, now big surprise. Yep, I got adhesive on my grout float because it was on the counter. And so when I pressed my tiles, I got adhesive all over my tiles. Made a hell of a mess here. Okay, I'm going to try to clean that adhesive off the base there while I'm looking at it. All right, there we go. Now that is clean. This is a great time. Take your knife. If you have any extra adhesive that bothers you, clean it up. You can also use a pencil. It's another great way to go. I'm pretty happy with that. Remember, because we're using a water-based adhesive, when we grout this, if we have any adhesive that's being proud and sticking out and going, hey, look at me, I'm over here, and looks ugly, it'll also soften up again from the moisture of the grout when we apply it, and you'll be able to take a small tool and remove it and fix it on the spot, okay? So you can either use a white grout so that if there are any pieces of adhesive sticking out, it blends in. I'm going to use a different color grout because I think it's a great way to show people how clean and easy this is. All right, we're going to grout in just a few minutes. Let me just go through a time lapse. I'll whip the rest of this on. I think maybe we'll show around the plug because this is something that people see all the time. And it's intimidating to have to work around an electrical plug. We're going to get rid of that fear right now. So here's my first sheet, right? I've got the bottom cut already. Good. And it's in line with this row. That's missing a tile. How about that? I'm going to measure over 10 1/4 to 12 1/4. Okay, so 10 1/4 to 12 1/4. That's my hole. 10 1/4 is there, and I'm going to make it wider. I'm going to go to 10. Okay, so I'm going to cut these last couple pieces out. All right. This is how easy this is, folks. When you're prepping up for your backsplash, make sure you grab some 45-minute compound, mesh tape if you need to. Make a nice firm surface around your plug. Don't rely on an adhesive to solve your problems when you get there, okay? Now, I need a little bit more adhesive on the wall. When you're working with a small tile like this, you don't get to cheat. You don't get to add the adhesive to the back of the stone. It's always about the surface, okay? Make the surface perfect, so then your tile will go on perfect. You don't ever want to be building up the back of your stone. You don't ever want to be in a spot where you forgot something and you come back and get it later and you have to add adhesive. It'll never sit right. It'll drive you nuts trying to clean out old adhesive or adding enough to make it stick. Or you're always going to have a raised surface. Be happy with everything you do as you go. So I want to take this penny tile right here and quickly add it to this lost lonely soul down there. Bam. Okay, now here we go. Again, we're going to start by carrying the weight so that I'm gently setting it in place and watching my line. Okay. You don't want to have it all too close. Remember, there's a nice factory gap everywhere. If you set your too close or too far away, your grout is going to scream that that's where the joint is. And ultimately that's your goal, is to have nothing screaming. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Everybody agree? Now for perfect, we can add our halves now around the electrical plug. All right. You don't have to do this. In most situations, your electrical cover plate is more than big enough to cover. And might I suggest, before you tile, make sure you get whatever you're going to use to finish. This one by Eaton is amazing, okay? Because the fixture, actually this gets screwed to the fixture, and you can confirm whether or not your tile is going to be covered. Like, I don't really even need to have those halves there, but it helps to hold the grout better, ultimately gives you a better finish and more options. All right, let's get a couple more of these. Okay. Done. Remember, the secret to tiny tile is having a perfectly level counter. If you don't, stay away from this stuff, okay? Because you can't start on a nice row and then having a gap open up where you got to start putting little pieces, and by the time you get to the other end of the counter, it's half a tile or a full tile, and it's so nasty to look at. If you have unlevel counters, go with larger tile, at least 3 inches tall, and might I consider starting it with a mid tile. Start the bottom row with half a tile, okay? And that gives you the flexibility to grow or shrink as you need to. But if you have installed level counters, you're good. Small tiles are great and very, very flexible. And in this case, even affordable. All right, I'm just gonna clean up now and give this about an hour or so, and then we're gonna grout. All right, it's time to grout, guys, but I screwed up and I got Ultra Color Plus. Didn't plan ahead, so the hardware store near where I was, this is all they had in stock. Yeah, this is gonna happen to you. We made a video where I warned you not to use this if you're a new DIYer, especially on showers. Like a backsplash this size, I can probably handle this okay. I'm gonna mix it all in one batch. But if you're using it, remember it dries super quick. So maybe mix half a bag at a time, which is like, I prefer to mix the whole bag so you get consistent color. Or you can just work it until it starts to dry out on you and throw it in the garbage and get another bag later. Just so you know, there's a chart on these bags. And it tells you the size of your tile, the thickness of the tile, how many square feet this is going to do with different size grout lines. So it takes 3 factors into place. It's not a perfect chart, but it gives you an idea. I'm expecting to get the 14 square feet that I need out of this. It's going to be close. We'll see. I'm going to have to go back to the store and get another bag just to finish off. But the goal is to do the backsplash and the counter with the same grout. And it is warm gray, in case anybody wants to know. These bags tear weird, okay? There's like weak spots in this, so be careful. Always add the water. The mixing ratio is also on the bag, okay? One of these 10-pound bags goes with 1 liter, or a quart, I think is what you guys use in the South. Funny how I call Americans in the South. Okay, here we go. We're gonna throw in this little, it kind of reminds me. Yep, whatever you do for a living is gonna kill you. Here we go. Yeah, I'm liking that. So everything is pretty much set up and I'm ready to put in grout. Got the rest of the doors on, but as you can see, this process of drilling out for the faucet is messy. So I want to get the last of the messy work done, vacuum up before I mix my grout. I've made this mistake so many times before. I've done grout work and then had to attach something to a wall to finish a project. Always leave your grout work so that when you're done grouting, you're done for the day, because you can't rush it and then you've got to come back and put silicone seal on. So just think ahead. This stuff here, when you're coring into laminate for countertop, there's a resin, all right? So you want to get that off the teeth. It clumps up. And what it does is it gets rid of your cutting and it overheats. There we are, done and done. There's my product. This is an unsanded grout, so it's phenomenal on glass as well. There we go. Okay. Got a lot of fresh mud over here, so I'm trying to watch my application. I don't want to get it all over the bloody wall. I usually like to move a little faster than this with this stuff, but I also don't want to work dirty. When you use the grout float to set the penny tile, it's perfectly flush, so it actually makes this really easy to put on. Right, there's no leppage here. Oh, that's just amazing. And I'm gonna grout right up to the cabinet. And that is just because it gives me something to silicone against afterwards, right? Everywhere I have a change of material, I'm gonna add silicone. Due to expansion and contraction laws, the tile and the cabinets and the countertops and everything are going to expand and contract at different rates. So you want to have a silicone seal that has the flexibility to keep that gap from opening up over time. Here we go. And for a nice clean finish, get rid of all the extra grout off your surface. There we are. Okay. This tile reminds me, I once had a client who had a rather large kitchen. It was one of those, like a 10 by 10 basically, right, or a 10 by 12. And she asked me to put in penny tile like this, only it was stainless steel. And that was a lot of fun to work with. But the thing is, we used a silver grout. When it was all done, her kitchen looked like champagne bubbles. Like, it was really phenomenal. One of the coolest looks I've ever seen in my life. So you might think, oh, penny tile, it's so old and outdated. But in a lot of cases, everything you do nowadays is going to be old and outdated within a year. So sticking with something that's traditional like this gives you a lot of longevity on it, on your project. I mean, we're at a point now, you start to see this come together and you're like, well, that worked, eh? This is a great little transformation. Makes a real useful space. I think if I was to total up the money that we put into this, what am I? $600 for cabinets. They came pre-built. A couple hundred for the sink, 100 for the faucet, 3, that's 9. $100 for cement and grout, makes $1,000. And then 200 for the countertop tile. 80 for the paint, 13, a couple of dollars in wooden screws, some electrical, $1,400. Most people can't even get a countertop for $1,400 nowadays. And I built an entire kitchen for that same money. That's where the power of DIY is. If I was going to go out and quote to do something like this for somebody as a contractor, to remodel a kitchen like this, I'm still going to charge them $8,000. Yep, you want it done right, do it yourself, make some money. There you go. You got about 20 minutes from when you start to when you have to wash. And washing takes longer than the application, so usually the second half of the washing is where you run into trouble. So now I got everything grouted. Now I'm just working on my tile joints, and then we'll jump right into washing. Now, the washing process, guys, first is your tools. Okay? Grout floats aren't free, and if you wait for that to set up another 5 minutes, you'll never get it off. All right? So it's nice to remember to take care of the tools. All right. Boom. All right. That's me taking care of the tools. Okay, and now I'm going to wash in the same process as where I started it. All right. Wipe, flip, and wipe. That's all you got to do at this point. Okay? That's the only way that you're going to get this done as fast as you put it on. Also, make sure your breakers are off to your electrical when you're doing this. Water can drip down, hit those screws, and electrify the grout surface. And it won't kill you, but you'll enjoy that ride for a moment. You'll definitely know you're alive when that hits. I wouldn't recommend it if you have a heart condition. Here we go. I'm in good shape. It's not setting up too fast on me. Being in a basement-ish, it's kind of cool in here, so it helps. But consider your temperature of where you're working. If it's a hot summer day where you are and you're trying to use this grout, it's going to set up a lot faster. Cold water to mix it, cold water to sponge it, and then there we go. Now when I'm done, the next step is going to be to get a clean pail of water and come back and then wipe it all again to get the residue off. What I'm looking right now to do is just set up the grout depth on the tile. I'm not worried about the haze on the stone because that actually cleans off a lot better than you might think. Flip it and wipe it. There we are. Okay, one more suggestion when you're making your grout. If you're not comfortable with the speed and you have your low experience level, leave a handful of powder in the bag. I'm doing this fast enough that if I have any issues like this, where there's adhesive on the tile, I know I can stop and take time to clean this up. I know I'm going to make a mess. I'm going to grab some of the old stuff there, rub a little dirt in it, right? And I'm good to go. But if you are working inexperienced and you get into a situation where all your grout is mixed, you get down near the end of the job and it's starting to get hard, what you're going to find is that you can't mix it, you can't use it. There'll be holes in your grout and you're going to have to go buy another bag just so you can get rid of a pinhole. All right, so leave yourself a little bit of mercy in the bag. Okay, here we go. And if you got pinholes like this, be over generous. Okay, these tiles can be very difficult sometimes to get the right angle and get them filled, and they'll trap air. Gentle pressure and you're good. All right, I'm gonna finish cleaning this up. I'm just gonna finish wiping down this countertop now. I'll change the water and give it all another clean wipe, and this will be done. Later on in the day, I'll have to buff it, just using some paper towels, and that'll be fine. That'll get the haze off. And that is everything you're gonna need to do countertops. I am going to be installing the plumbing on the sink, the faucet, running the plumbing from the back, connecting the water lines, doing all of this stuff. We're finishing off the kitchenette. This is video number 7 in our series. We're getting our church ready for occupancy permit. And I'm excited to get this project finished because next thing on my list at this church is to convert my 2-piece bathroom into a 3-piece. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. You're not going to want to miss that. Here we go. Now, basket strainer. So I'm just taking my thing apart. This is a hat gasket. I call it a top hat gasket. It kind of reminds me of it. We got nuts here. We got to put our basket strainer on the sink. That goes underneath. This is very important. There are 2 ways you can use these basket strainers, okay? One is you can stick the gasket on the top part, compression on the other side of the sink, and then use this ring to create that compression, and you seal it from the top, so the water never gets past that gasket here. The other way is, once you've installed it, underneath the sink you throw that, and then you throw that cardboard gasket on, so that when you're putting on the nut, you get compression on the underside of the sink so that it doesn't leak. Personally, I prefer this way. I only use plumber's putty when I have to. This means I don't have to, so I'm gonna go with this. Here we go. We're gonna get the sink out of here first because it's not installed yet. I almost forgot, guys. I gotta kind of guess as to where the middle of this is gonna be because my shelf is in the wrong spot for my plumbing. So I'm gonna just mark off where the center drain is. There we go. Because before I put the sink in, one, I want to drill a hole in my shelf from my plumbing. I want to bring the plumbing through the back wall. I want to bring the water supply through the back wall. And I want to be done bringing all of those things into the space because I don't want to be crawling around underneath the sink doing all that work, right? Let's get it all run before we drop in the sink. I want to bring my P-trap and everything underneath this shelf and connect it down there. So here we go. And we're going to just check for resin. We're good. Nice. Okay. Step 1. Where's my broom? I have my water, my drain behind this wall, and I've got my water supply both behind this wall. And it is 16 inches from that plug right there. So I'm going to bring these water lines both through here, and I've got Shark Bite 90s, right? Let's take a look at this. Whenever you're doing plumbing, you want to consider, do you want to have your shutoff valve coming straight out, or do you want it off on an angle here? And consider your faucet. So nice to have everything here. Open it up, take a look before you go shopping. These will connect right to my shutoff valve. So if I put both of these valves here and one above it, okay, even though my sink is going in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go left and right so that I got access to that. We'll just go here and then one here. So in behind this wall, I've got my drain line running pretty much lateral coming across. So I'm going to bring it up on a 90, stick that fitting on there, and then connect with my pipe to my drain inside the sink right here. So what I want to do is I'm good to come across at 21 inches. That's my hole, right? So I'm going to be basically going like this, but I got to drill my hole where I want to have my lateral come through at a comfortable spot, right? Considering the depth of my sink, the depth of the tailpiece, the depth of this, and then I have a conversion here. My assembly is going to be basket drain to tailpiece coming through here, and I've got this fitting here that is 1.5 inches designed to go on the tailpiece. Okay, That I just cut a piece of pipe to hit the right height. So my life is nice and simple. Just a piece of ABS to finish that off. So the lower I go, the more convenient everything is, and the better it'll drain actually, because it's coming across so low. I want to try to keep my entrance through the hole nice and low. And I like to make the hole as big as the outside of the fitting, not the pipe. Just in case in the future you got to make any adjustments, you can cut it off and put a coupling on or something like that. Okay, here we go. All right, so 21 from the plug is perfect. That's just to the right of this line. And then this and this coming across. They mostly fit the same height. So I'm gonna just go down here and drill a height something like this high. Okay, a couple inches off the ground. I'll just set it on there. Know my spot. Oh, excuse me for a minute while I crawl into the abyss. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so here come my water lines. Now where we're from, the hot line comes through on the left. And just to make life easy, I have one type of PEX, but I put electrical tape on the hot line so I can identify it. And there's my code. Because I'm going with shark bite, I'm just leaving this connection undone for now. And then later on, I'm gonna make the connection in the back. I'm just crimping with solid copper rings. So I've got everything kind of prepped up. I'm pretty much ready to go. I needed my clamps for the sink. There we go. They came with the sink. You know what else? It came with a basket strainer. But it doesn't matter how pretty it is. Look at this. Plastic tailpiece, plastic clamp, plastic, plastic, plastic. Everything here is freaking plastic. Like, it's like plastic and metal. It's a hybrid. Okay? This is insane. I wouldn't use this on my worst enemy. The gasket I'm going to save. It's good to have in the plumbing kit for another day. And this is a really nice gasket for the seal. It's actually, it's a better gasket for this because it'll compress, but this one won't. So it'll get standing water sitting in the bottom of your sink. So I'm going to steal that. See, this has got a nice deep well with a food trap. Little basket. Look at this. This is adorable. But I'm not going to use this. I don't want to ever use anything plastic that has to be under compression. So that's all going in the garbage. We're going to use this one. That doesn't fit this. I've got my own, which is also a strainer. Okay? At the end of the day, give me metal threads, okay? Like, give me brass hardware. This is the kind of stuff that I want to work with, not this cheap plastic stuff. Give me a metal tailpiece, all right? Ugh, I want my things to last when I put them on. All right, so I'm pretty much ready. I'm just gonna do a little bit more prep here, and that is on my P-trap. All right, I have two places where I want to use a little bit of Teflon. Teflon always goes on clockwise. Okay. And the reason we use it is a lubricant, but also a sealer. All right. Plastic on plastic ABS fittings don't get the greatest seal. But the minute you add some Teflon tape to that joint, you make it 10 times better at keeping from having leaks. All right. And we don't have to tighten it all the way up yet. Just get in the neighborhood, have it ready to go. Okay, now when we go to assemble, lickety split, we'll be done. My faucet comes with this plate. It's kind of cute and handy. Yeah, if you're making a conversion from an old one to a new one, you can use this, all right? This will go underneath the sink. Sorry, this one goes on top of the sink. And it'll cover if you have an old 3-hole faucet. But again, garbage. All right, what else have we got in our little box of surprises here? This is the weight for the pull-down hose. And this is something else. I probably need to read the instructions. Okay, now the challenge here is to put the sink on. And it's a pretty deep well. I think it looks like a 9-inch. Yeah, we'll call that 9. And plus that, so I don't have a lot of room to work with. So there's a few different clip systems out there. And we're gonna basically want as many of these installed in advance as we can. So they slide on and then they won't come out. All right. Trying to find the position for all these locations after the fact is difficult. But at the same time, this particular sink, it has a location from underneath. I can go in, slide, and then I can lock and tighten it. Got the gasket, I got a strainer, it's a one piece. Boom, it's installed. We're gonna try to put this little symbol there at the top. Doesn't get much easier than that, does it? And then we have a locking nut. All right, now we want to put channel locks on here. Okay, and give that as much compression as we can comfortably give. There's no chance of damaging anything here because it's metal on metal instead of cheap plastic fittings. God, why people sell things that encourage it to fall apart on you, I don't know. And we drop it in, right? Now, one thing I'm missing is it doesn't come with a gasket. The old days, whenever you had a top mounted sink, we would always use plumber's putty or they would serve you up a gasket. I'm bleeding, how about that? Huh. All right, and you just roll this Play-Doh out. And you don't need a whole lot because it's all pretty flat. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that around the edge of your tile, you're going to have your sink set into this. Okay? So roll as much of this up as you need so that when you tighten up your sink, you're compressing down into the gasket. And then you don't have to add silicone around the outside of the sink afterwards, which always looks horrible and traps dirt. And then after I'm done compressing it, you know, I'll just scrape off the excess. It's not going to hurt anybody and put it right back in the bucket for next time. Roll this out and then lay up run it around the entire perimeter of the sink. It's going to be perfect. All right, now I got to crawl underneath here, put in all the clips. I'm going to have to just rely on my sense of touch here. Reach back and identify that clip. I find it easier. Oh. I just knocked it right out of the track. Well, was that ever brilliant? Wow. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to demonstrate up front, okay, the power of this little bad boy here. Okay. All right, there we go. There's more than one design. I am not a fan of whatever the hell this is. You know, this is part of the problem. You have to buy whatever is on the damn market at the time. I'm not familiar with this brand. If I had known these clips were this frustrating, I never would have freaking bought this crap. I gotta hold it in place while I try to torque it. This is a problem. This is one of these moments where you guys get to learn from my mistakes. This hardware is garbage. It does not give me the ability to get enough compression to actually compress this gasket to get a good seal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it all apart, get rid of this plumber's putty altogether. I'm going to have to put a bead of clear silicone on the tile and then set this into the silicone. Not the way I want to work, but I don't have an option because this is keeping me from installing the sink nice. Just for the record, No, this is not a sponsored video, but this is my favorite silicone of all time. It's made in Guelph, Ontario. Cheers to Canada. One thing you might want to know. If it doesn't smell like vinegar, it's not really good silicone. Okay? There's a lot of crap being sold on the shelf for $9 a tube that ain't worth $2.50. Okay? Good stuff stinks. That's how you know the difference. All right, so what I'm going to do is just prop it up and seal it from here. You know, one of the funniest things we get in the market, we get so many products coming from overseas. And you know, Canada actually supplies China with a lot of coal. And it's not for making energy, it's for making steel. They do have one of the lowest quality steels in the world. And so the hardware is just garbage. Oh well, at least it's cheap, right? Okay. Gotta get this started before you... Oh yeah. That's my favorite thing of all time right there. 4 is good enough. We'll let the silicone do the rest of the work. All right, so check the instructions. We're good. I think I know exactly what I'm doing here. This fed through the hole. And it's going to want to go like this. Hot and cold. This particular product is from Glacier Bay. I am just getting occupancy permit. This thing is probably only going to last a year or two. Whatever. I'm fine with that. Again, this is going to go over all of those pipes right up to the stem. And you're going to push and turn and lock everything in place. So at least that's a really handy design. I'm just not going to be able to see anything about what I'm doing here. It's just designed big and fat so you can stick your hand on it and twist it in. Okay, I got it. I just can't see what I'm doing. And I'm behind a 9-inch sink. This is why I'm saying it's not going to last long. Because there's just no way to get in here and get a proper compression. That ain't terrible. I'll tell you that right now. See if I can muscle up a couple more turns. Yeah. That right there was a young man's game. All right. Okay. This is a quick connect, thank God. Goes to this back here. Done. That one's marked hot. There's my electrical tape. And it has a gasket, so I don't have to worry about anything else. Just gonna put it on here hand tight, and then I'll use a pair of slip joint pliers. Okay. We don't need a lot of strength here, but we're gonna go until that gasket gives me some resistance so I know it's engaged. There we go. Plenty. Finger tight is not tight enough. Okay, so even with my vice grip hands that my kids saying I have, all right, that's tight by hand. Quarter, 3/4, full turn, and a quarter. All right, there we go. That's that. This is the weight. That must be what that does. Okay, so I'm going to set this over my pipe. Yes, definitely good to pick the right side. Okay, and then I'm going to log it over top. That's kind of actually not a bad idea. So now it'll sit up. Now, time for the tailpiece. Right on. Okay, so brass nut, top hat washer. Okay, right up to here. All right, and then this slides on underneath. We'll use that on the white washer. The reason that works is because the pipe itself is like this, and the washer is, the big white nut is on the outside and the inside. On the inside it's flared. And so it just really creates a lot of compression. Every time you turn it, it just triples the strength every quarter. So you just got to give it a couple of shots. That's good. Now all I got to do is measure the height from my ABS to my P-trap. Okay, so I'm going to hold this up to where it comes through the wall. And then from the shelf to my ABS inside the pipe. You can see that, Max, I'm reading that at 9.5. But I want a little bit of slope, so I want this a little bit taller. So I'm going to go with 9.25 minus from the shelf to the top of this fitting. 9.25 minus 1.25, which makes it 8. We'll see if I can know my math at all here. I love to do this on the printed side because there's 8 is just after the barcode. I don't have to make a mark. There's a tooth in here. I just line that up, little crack just next to the barcode. There we are. I'll do a dry fit. See if we like that. Yeah, that actually is perfect. Line that up so it's pointing straight back now. So before I can glue anything, I've got to make a measurement and a rough in for this one as well. All right. You want to be careful not to go to the glue too quick here. We want to measure to the fitting. We're going 8 inches plus. I've got to go 8 inches plus a good 1/2 inch for the depth of the fitting. So we're going to go with 8.5. All right, here we go again. 8.5 is right there. Okay. All right. So I'll rough in that. And I'm going to rough in that and then see if all of this twists together. And it does perfectly. Okay. Alrighty. That's what the cardboard is for. Because this glue can make one hell of a mess. And it's a painted surface that's actually only a couple of days old. Because we started this project just like 4 days ago. From repurposing and recutting down the cabinets to painting them to building the countertop, installing everything on top. If you haven't seen the series, you can check the link below. Start watching that right from the beginning. There's a lot to learn in there that can help you remodel your kitchen. Save a ton of money. Now, remember, I didn't lock that up. That gives me the ability to fuss around a little bit, right? But I don't need to have too many joints that aren't glued. Remember when you're gluing, glue the pipe and the fitting. It's a solvent, so it melts things. You want to melt them both. There we go. Now I've got 4 things to put the solvent on. This fitting, that pipe, this pipe, and that fitting. We're going to hit all 4 at the same time and stick it all together. And there we go, we'll get that out of the way. Now you don't have forever to do this, so here we are. And there we go. Okay. Now that's all good. I'll make sure it looks kind of square. Now I'm going to tighten up that P-trap. Just finger tight though, eh? Okay. If you tighten it too much, you're going to make the pipe oval and then it'll leak. A lot of people get leaks in their pipe And their first instinct is to tighten it up. You should actually relax it. Put on some new Teflon and then tighten again. Just go hand tight. Check for leaks then. Just a note, when you're doing water testing, there's every joint that you made is a possible leak. So take a piece of cardboard or some paper towels or something, stick it underneath the P-trap, okay? Because what you're going to want to do here is a two-stage. You want to turn the water on first to the faucet, hot and cold, all right? And don't just connect just the cold or something and then test the faucet. This is a mixing chamber and it'll come back out the hot water line and cause a flood. Just a note. What you want to do is two things. First, we want to just set the cold water and just let it run a little bit, okay? Just the cold. You're gonna wanna run this for like 15 or 20 seconds. It's gonna have air in it because we had to bleed the lines. Look for anything that's obvious first. Check the basket, the collars. All right, the first inspection you're making is to make sure that everything is glued together properly and there's no obvious major leaks. Yay, we passed that test. Now we want to overwhelm the drain system. So you plug the sink. And then you're going to want to fill it up with a few inches of water, okay? This water test is a little different. This one is going to overwhelm the system to make sure that all the gaskets that are in that system are under compression and are sealing things up properly. Come on, honey, stop complaining. There we go. We got all the air out now yet? I love the smell of sulfur. Before I use this kitchen though, I've got to put a new water system in. We got to put in the purification. Yep. And maybe turn the pump up a little bit, put a little more pressure in the line. What do you think? Can you imagine trying to fill up a pot of water here to boil pasta or something? You'd get old before you got it done. Now, we're going to double check everything again. Make sure that the gaskets are good. We're going to pop the drain and overwhelm the system and see if it leaks anywhere else. That might be the first time I've ever done that and didn't have a leak. All right. And now the third test. And this is the big one. If there is a place in the compression fitting where the Teflon is, sometimes it can take 5 or 10, 15 minutes before the water finds its way around all of that and starts leaking. And then you get a slow drip. So now you put it on the cold water and you just let this run, okay? Can't even tell you how many times in my career we would do a water test, first and second stage, and not do this. We go home and then we get the call on the weekend, hey, the sink is leaking. And so take the time, make sure you're not gonna have a drip. A little bit of water causes a lot of damage, especially on a painted wood surface, if it's left unattended, all right? Oh. Well, thanks guys for hanging out with us today. Listen, if you have questions about maybe your project, hit the comment section up. Hopefully you've got a better understanding of the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to take an old nasty kitchen and revitalize it and make it brand new. Remember, if you don't change the layout of your cabinets, you don't even need a building permit. Cheers to next time.